I want to learn what Bitcoin is. You know what I mean? Like from the ground up.
This is the shit that interests me the most is the blockchain stuff. How is that going to work?
Bullshit. It's bullshit.
Fuck.
Total nonsense. Yeah.
To look at my money and be like, dude, make that all Bitcoin, terrifying.
That's actually like one of the things that led to the West African trade slave.
Damn.
Oh my God.
You learned about this old named Keynes.
Yeah.
Why do they tax you at all?
I hear you.
Why don't
That's
they
my
just print the
fucking
money if they
problem.
can?
Yeah. And what do they do with the tax money?
Gender studies in Iran.
The tax money was to keep the time.
When it comes from like TradFi, what
the hell is that?
Traditional finance.
Like
Okay. If I hear white paper, I'm thinking Alex Jones.
So you guys trust this man?
Who's Satoshi?
They got all the radio lines after the war around the zoo. All the animals started fucking getting heart problems and getting fucked up.
Allegedly, we're being tortured and like we're sick from electricity and we don't even know how good we should feel.
Taxes are humiliation ritual because the government can just print
Now
money.
we're talking about it.
We're here.
What's up?
I'm fucking tired. I was telling you. I got to thank you for making all this happen. Get me on the war mode in the first place.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Just a big fan.
That blows my mind.
Yeah.
Any high functioning human that listens to us blows my fucking mind.
Why does it blow your mind though?
I don't know.
I mean, have you heard us talk?
the level we're taught, like,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like if like someone like you got a high IQ, and it's like if you hear us talk, I was saying especially wrong for like a year. Like there's a ton of stuff that I'm just fucking up. Where like if I was like up there, I'd be like, God damn, someone needs to get this guy hooked on phonics.
The way I describe you guys to like my friends is like, imagine like the typical bar conversation we have, right? And take 10 of them and put them all together in 45 minutes. You know, like a year worth of bars conversations into 45 minutes is y'all's show.
Yeah, Spade loves the bar scene.
I love bars, dude. I love shooting pool, hanging out.
Well, I like it because I'm from Delco and I haven't been home in 17 years, and it's like a bit of nostalgia, like hearing the accent.
Yeah.
I can feel that.
Yeah, they beat the Philly accent out of me when I moved to South Carolina, so it may not be obvious that I'm from the same
You sound
area,
like you're from like the CIA or something.
Might get into that.
Yeah, true.
But
Where do we start?
I don't know. This is a War Mode TFTC collab. We wanted to talk. You guys want to talk about?
I want to
Bitcoin,
learn
right?
about
You need to
Bitcoin.
bring
man.
us up to speed. 9-coiner, and he's getting debanked.
Pre-coiner is the correct term.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
I just like, I'm interested in this stuff. I like the concept behind it, but every time we talk about it, we get confused. People get mad. So I want to learn what Bitcoin is. You know what I mean? Like from the ground up.
All right.
Like if you could teach the people that
This
listen
is
to
for
us.
more like Bitcoin for just pre-coiners, as you call
I don't
them.
know about you, Will, but the best way I like to start these conversations, like, what do you think? Like, how would you describe Bitcoin as you understand it now?
Bitcoin, I don't know. Bitcoin to me is like some decentralized money, and there's a limited amount, so it's kind of like gold.
Yeah. I just think of it
that's
as
as much as I can understand, but I can't really use it. So for me, like money's like I can tap my card, cash. Now they're not taking cash, so now I see this as money's changing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think you're right on all that. And
That was actually pretty good.
yeah, I think the most important thing to realize is like Bitcoin's monetizing in real time. Like, so many people will shit on Bitcoin. They'll be like, I can't spend it anywhere. Why is that? And it's like, all right, take a step back and think. Like, this thing was created 16 years ago almost at this point, launched 16 years ago. And to expect it to be fully monetized, fully accepted, and fully available everywhere is just nonsensical. And so you have to realize that Bitcoin was introduced to the world in the beginning of 2009. And since then, slowly but surely, people have been coming to understand what it is, recognizing that it's like gold, if not not even arguably, inarguably better than gold. And individuals, now companies, and even countries are beginning to use it. And as more and more people use it, it'll become more available. And Will's like working on a company to make that possible.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, in terms before we get to spending it though, it's more like, I think that the reason it's so confusing to people is because there's so many fucking charlatans and like scammers out there.
Can I stop you for a minute? Like, so in 2009, there's a Satoshi Nakamoto, right?
Yeah,
Satoshi. There's Satoshi.
Yeah.
And there's a white paper.
Yes.
And so in my head, I'm like going, if I hear white paper, I'm thinking Alex Jones. I'm like, this is a conspiracy.
Yeah.
This is, the government is somehow seeing the end of the dollar, trying to like protect the U.S. interests. Like, I'm like, something's up with this.
Yeah.
But then you guys that's not what you think, right?
I mean, like, I was like mostly a fully formed adult when Bitcoin gets released. I'm living in New York. I have an apartment that overlooks the New York Fed, right? We're down in like the financial district, right? So like 08, 09. Yeah, well, right off Wall Street, right? And so it's like 08, 09. It's like the beginning of TARP, beginning of the Obama administration.
What's TARP?
What's that?
Toxic, or not toxic, troubled asset relief program.
Yeah, so TARP's like the first really big like relief program that's like bailing out the banks. When we talk about like 08, 09.
Too big to fail stuff?
Yeah, too big to fail. It's just like, I think the first one's like 300 billion or 200 billion.
700 billion.
Or 700.
And that was like inconceivable at the time.
Yeah, no one would say the T word.
That's like the budget of the military, right?
Yeah.
Close to it.
That could run most countries.
This is actually a stat I like to run with. I love
stats.
Actually did a Bitcoin 101 presentation to LaSalle College High School in Philly like a month ago. And this is what people don't realize. So Bitcoin's a monetary good at the end of the day. It competes with the dollar. And to understand why you should want Bitcoin, you have to understand how fucked up the dollar is. And the stat from 1776 to 2008, right before TARP and the bailouts, the U.S. monetary base, all the dollars that the Fed has ever created, went from 0 to 800 billion in that 200 years. 220 year period. From 08 to today, it went from 800 billion to 7 trillion. So
that's way more.
They doubled it in 1 year under Obama. And then like everyone started
and
doing
now it's been like doubling.
That's not including like pallets of cash that just get shipped to like some terrorist cell in
these days.
Iran.
These days they just click a button. We're talking about base money here, like the Fed creates. That money you're talking about gets created by commercial banks when they issue loans.
My buddy was telling me about this, that there's this whole thing of like they create dollars, and if you're closer to when the dollar's created, you get more. Like this is
Cantillon effect.
This is killing me.
Yeah.
This is even a thing.
I'm so far from
I have
that.
I have this book up here, an essay on economic theory by Richard Cantillon, who described this effect, and that's what it is. The closer you are to the monetary spigot, the creation of dollars, which in our system are the commercial banks. The commercial banks can get these dollars and then lend them out at a high interest rate,
right?
And they benefit from that.
Yeah.
Similarly, print money. Most people put it into assets like the stock market.
This is how dumb. Like this is where I'll go. This doesn't make sense. Why isn't a dollar just a dollar?
Well,
like I don't understand.
It's not dumb. So like this is what I've always found when I first start talking about Bitcoin to people, is that like back in 2012, even 2013, is people get mad.
Yeah,
and they get mad because like when you start thinking about what the dollar is, you realize you've been
coming
duped.
at my paper.
Yeah, and you're just coming at like, how did I buy into this? You feel stupid. I felt stupid.
Yeah.
And it was like Ron Paul for me. Like Ron Paul got to me like big time. And like I just started the gold bug move when I heard about Bitcoin in 2011, right? But it was basically watching what was going on in New York, right? We're creating all these dollars. I didn't understand anything contemporaneously, but I was like, where's all this money coming from?
That pisses me off.
How is this happening? Where does all this money go? Why is my apartment now 30%?
Yeah, I get so
more?
pissed at the thing of like, did you know how much a dollar was back before the Fed?
Yeah.
And then now, that's like a demoralization thing, man.
It ruins you.
Yeah.
And then you start getting into like, actual printed dollars, but also just the expansion of credit, right? Is like, how did people buy homes in 1890?
Right.
They didn't take out a 90% mortgage.
Yeah.
They just bought it or they built it themselves.
Right.
They just paid for the house. You just paid for stuff. You get like a weak credit with like your grocery store or something, but like the world wasn't run on credit, right? You just had hard money.
It's against most people's laws.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're not allowed to, yeah.
Guys like us.
Yeah. But like, we have a buddy, Saifuddin Amus, who wrote the Bitcoin Standard, and this guy, Nick Szabo, who's like this old cypherpunk guy who built some pre-Bitcoin stuff. And like, they talk about this a lot, which is like, the idea, like everything we grew up in is this very little, minuscule point in time where money wasn't gold.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
for 5,000 years, it was just gold. And anytime a civilization that had gold as money ran into a civilization with like shells or something as money, they fucking destroyed them.
Yeah.
And they didn't even have to kill them. It was just like they could wreck their economy immediately.
Yeah.
Just bring in the good money and buy all the resources. And
Yeah.
that's like Nick Szabo, he wrote this piece called Shelling Out, and there's many examples of this throughout it. And that's like, when it comes to the US dollar, people don't recognize it has this aura of legitimacy, and you have the Federal Reserve Chairman, the Treasury, and there's this architecture around the whole dollar system that makes you feel like it's legitimate. But at the end of the day, when you compare it to monies like shells, like here in the U.S., and the Indians used wampum shells, and then the Europeans came over.
I mean, we're using them right now.
I didn't finish it, but I started reading this book, Debt by David Graeber, and he was talking about this. Like they always just make something. They'll do rocks or whatever.
Well, West Africa is another interesting one. They were using glass beads. And when the Europeans started doing international trade with West Africa, the first time they went, they're like, yo, they're fucking using glass beads as their money.
Yeah.
So they went back to Europe, made a bunch of glass bead currency, and then went back and bought all the West African resources. And that's actually like one of the things that led to the West African trade slave was the fact that.
Damn.
Oh my God.
And so like,
gotcha.
The whole point is like, don't like, and this is like biblical, like in the Bible, they say don't fuck up the money. In the Quran, they say don't fuck the money. Thomas Jefferson said, don't fuck up the money. Aristotle said, don't fuck up the money. Like we've been fed this message by many different people, different parts of time, different parts of the world that are like, don't fuck up the money.
And we're in the worst time now, right?
We are fucking up the money.
Yeah.
Clearly.
All the founding fathers knew this. You know, everyone gives shit to Alexander Hamilton. He starts the central bank. Dude, he knew not to fuck the money. Like, even when he's advocating the formation of the centralized United States bank, he's like, look, the only way we could get into trouble is if we just start printing paper money. Like, he knows that. Like, they all know it, right? But we end up in that place anyway.
Sup, freaks? This rip of TFTC was brought to you by our good friends at BitKey. BitKey makes Bitcoin easy to use and hard to lose. It is a hardware wallet that natively embeds into a 2 or 3 multi-sig. You have one key on the hardware wallet, one key on your mobile device, and Block stores a key in the cloud for you. This is an incredible hardware device for your friends and family, or maybe yourself, who have Bitcoin on exchanges and have for a long time, but haven't taken the step to self-custody because they're worried about the complications of setting up a private public key pair, securing that seed phrase, setting up a PIN, setting up a passphrase. Again, BitKey makes it easy to use, hard to lose. It's the easiest 0 to 1 step, your first step to self-custody. If you have friends and family on the exchanges who haven't moved it off, tell them to pick up a BitKey. Go to bitkey.world, use the key TFTC20 at checkout for 20% off your order. That's bitkey.world, code TFTC20. Yeah, and so coming back to Bitcoin, like we were talking about this on Sunday, like people think Bitcoin is like the first ever, but as Will mentioned, there were people working on this problem of like digital currency.
Yeah, I really liked what you guys were saying, where it's a limited number of people. It's a small amount of people that did this. And people were trying to do this for a while.
Tiny.
It's
group.
not like,
it's like 20, 30
What are
people.
the fuck ups beforehand? Like, what are the things they tried to push out and they just didn't take?
They did a lot of things beforehand. There's most of them are like proposals. Not many made it into like actual usage, but like there's something called like B money, which is this guy Wei Dai, which Bitcoin probably most comes closest to. B money's mentioned in the Bitcoin white paper as like inspiration for Bitcoin. There's something like BitGold that Nick Szabo did, which was just a proposal. It never got coded up or anything like that. But again, very similar to Bitcoin, but they always had a couple missing ingredients. And what's interesting about Bitcoin is that there aren't really that many new ideas by the time Satoshi publishes Bitcoin. There's a couple that are important, but like most of it is just grabbing these things. It's puzzle pieces that had been discovered in the 90s. With the rise of the internet, there's a lot of people that had this idea of like, oh shoot, we can do like, internet cash that's not run by a central government that can't be inflated. But it turns out like that's a pretty hard technical problem. Yeah. But enough people had tried by 2007, 2008, when Satoshi's working on this, that it's like, okay, all the puzzle pieces are here. He brings in a couple new ideas on top of that, and it kind of works. It doesn't totally work right away. Like there's bugs in the software. There's all these problems, but I'm really, one thing I want to get out before we keep on going on is that, I've watched Dave Portnoy get totally screwed over.
Hey, I said about Nice in 2017. He didn't listen to me.
I know.
With how much?
I won't say how. Like I helped him buy.
Would have been nice.
Move to a wallet. It would be. We'd be very happy with what is on that wallet.
And the last time we did one, it was 25,000.
It went down, and it was a tough one for us to understand because it was before I had really like started looking into the history of money myself, where they would make coins, but then they'd start shaving the coins and stuff. Yeah. And like, see, I didn't know this deep like history
in the Roman Empire.
Yeah. So I didn't know what I know now. And then I was like, dude, Bitcoin really does make a lot of sense, but I still don't get it.
Yeah. So I've seen like Dave Portnoy, get the Winklevoss twins talking about mining gold on asteroids, and like Rogan's been screwed over. So I want to do a good job of like the very, very basics.
Yeah, everyone immediately goes like utopia, war's not going to happen.
Yeah.
It's like a dickhead's born every day. Like someone might start up a war, whether Bitcoin exists or not.
Yeah,
like, someone's going to be pissed.
Yeah, we think it can solve a lot of problems, but like ultimately, like at the very, very core of things is like you said the thing right at the beginning is the reason Bitcoin is interesting, at least to me, and I think to most people, is because it is limited in supply and has a credible story to be limited in supply forever, right? And that everything else that we talk about, whether it's like Ethereum and all the other shit coins, we call them shit coins, out there, is that there's no credibility to the claim of a solid monetary policy. I think one thing that fucks people up is that they think that Bitcoin's some technological breakthrough, and it is kind of, but it's not really. It's really a monetary policy breakthrough, right? It's just that like not only is there a limited supply, but we can credibly enforce this forever, right? You can't even do that with gold. You can't do that with Ethereum. You can't do that with
you gotta
US
keep mining
dollars.
gold.
Yeah, because and then the job of everyone who's like getting into this is just like, do I think it's credible or not, right? And really, if you can answer that one question, you can decide whether or not Bitcoin has staying power. Now, there's lots of other details to discern, in all of this, but like in terms of like what Bitcoin is and what the value proposition is like there's only ever going to be 21 million, and there's no way to break that. It's
Right.
like, okay, then what does the world look like then?
And it's just on a receipt of blockchains.
Yeah.
So you can find it, you can watch it move around.
Yeah.
It's transparent, so you can validate that people aren't like shaving coins or trying to introduce fake Bitcoins that are being spent on the network. The network would immediately reject it.
That's it.
Yeah, see, I can run a piece of
So
software.
you can't print more money on it.
No.
Yeah.
And you said something.
People have tried.
You said something about gold. Like you have to go mine more gold. I would frame it differently. Is like you can go mine more gold. With Bitcoin, you can't. Like you know what's going to exist when. And so if the price of gold shoots up like it is now, all the gold miners are like, oh shit, the price of gold.
Get more
of it. Let's go
get more of it.
Yeah.
Bitcoin, that's what we say. Like it has this this inflexible supply juxtaposed to its demand. Bitcoin demand can go through the roof, and you can't create more of it no matter what.
Does that cause like an opposite of inflation, where like Bitcoin goes up, so price of stuff have to go down? If it was all Bitcoin, like the price of shit would have to go down.
It's deflationary. That's another big psyop. Is thank you.
Deflation's bad.
Deflation's bad.
Why?
That's very good.
It's bad.
Inflation's not good. I don't like this.
Well, deflation's bad if you have a debt-based
Austin's expensive
monetary
shit.
system. You got to pay back debt in a currency that is getting stronger. It's much harder.
It's huge fucking psyop. Like the whole idea, like that if you have a dollar, if you're I'm gonna have a freaking stroke here. Is like if you're an electrician, right? You went to trade school or you got your certifications or something like that. You make a good living. You make $120,000, $150,000, whatever it is now, right? And you take that money and you put it in your bank, right? You're a fucking idiot. Because your fucking money is going to be worth 10% less next year.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's just the deal. So like, what are you supposed to do? If you're really good at your fucking job, you're supposed to then go pick a stock that's of the company who's going to cure cancer. If you can't figure that out, then you deserve to lose your fucking money.
This is how they talk to me.
This is nuts.
Like
You're an electrician?
No,
He's a painter.
I'm a painter, and like, so paint used to be when I first started. I mean, I'm gonna sound like a geezer, but when I first started, it was $8 for a gallon, right? But that was like cheap paint. Then it was like 22 something. Then they kind of normalized like a 35 to 40 thing for like pretty decent quality paint. Then COVID hit, and it was like 4% this, 4%. Now it's like the good trim paint's $100 a gallon.
Yeah. Oh shit.
And they're hitting you with plastic cans.
There's no raise.
Yeah.
So a lot of painters, we have to put our money out to get the paint to do the job.
Yeah, your inputs go up.
So I have to risk. I have to like throw all the first check that I get, like the whole thing for paint. Yeah. And then I, fingers crossed, don't run into any problems. So like there's no like wiggle room. And they're like, oh, this is just inflation, man.
Well, think about the two risks you're taking. You're taking the risk on your inputs just to get the job done. And then whatever you have left over, you can't just put that under your mattress.
Yeah, and then
they're like, hey, go figure out who's going to win the AI wars or else you're a fucking moron.
Yeah, and then like after the job, you're just like, now your money's not even worth that much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, what are we doing? I feel like, I was telling my buddy today, like, I feel like I'm just a hamster on a wheel. They're constantly hitting me with distractions. I'm being fed poison. Everything they tell me is there's microplastics,
Yep,
the
doing
food's
it.
poison. The only white pill I hear is Bitcoin, where it's like, this will get us out of this, guys. Swear to God, this time it's for real.
Yeah. I mean,
But then you guys are saying like regular people don't understand what money is.
yeah.
So like that's where I get confused. I'm like, dude, maybe I don't know what money is.
It's like the fish and water thing where we're just born into it.
Yeah,
And
right.
You're like, oh yeah, I use dollars. I don't know anything else. You never quite, and they don't fucking teach it in school. Like I went,
Hell no.
Shoot,
I
knew
studied
not.
economics
Went
in
to Catholic
college.
school, bro.
I got my degree in economics. They didn't teach us what money was. Like we
In
learned-
economics?
No,
No, I was an economics major in college. Learned nothing.
Well, I
Well, you
mean,
learned it.
stupid question.
You learn
About this old pedophile named Keynes.
Yeah,
who-
John Maynard Keynes.
John Maynard Keynes,
Oh,
and he
Connor
set up
loves
this
it.
whole fucking system, and he's an old pedo that used to visit
Actually.
Man,
do sex tourism in Greece. And
Oh,
like,
what year?
Our entire economy is based off of him
in like
now.
the 20s. Yeah.
All right. Keep up with the fiat.
There's a
perverts.
footnote in the Bitcoin standard that describes it pretty well. He
Yeah.
was in Egypt, I believe, or Morocco.
Yeah.
But
One of those Mediterranean.
people don't know what it is. And like, what is money at the end of the day? It's supposed to like represent like your work, like the
Right.
value that you provide the economy. And we essentially live in a system where a central authority can hit a button and immediately dilute the value of that currency that's supposed to represent your work.
Yeah.
Like,
That's total control.
yeah.
Yeah, imagine someone on fixed income, right? Someone's older, worth their entire lives, right?
yeah. What about a pension?
COVID hits?
Pensions are
Right?
fucked.
Yeah.
COVID hits. Everything gets 3 times as expensive.
Yeah, man.
They are fucked. They have no value left in the economy. They can't produce more, right? They're just screwed.
They were sold a lie.
And we grew up and our parents were like, "Oh, I used to buy Coke for a nickel."
Yeah.
And we used to be like, "Ha ha ha." And it's like that's the worst thing I've ever heard now. It's
But
like
it's
the worst
kind
thing
of
that can
real,
happen.
dude. When I started thinking about prices from back in the day,
Yeah.
when
It's
I
the
was a
same
kid,
shit,
it's the
yeah.
same thing.
Yeah.
So it's scary.
Yeah, when I was in the Northeast, we used to go to the corner store after school.
Yeah,
and
get tasty
you'd
cakes.
be able to buy like
Yeah,
that
75
thing
cents.
in the barrel, the juice for
Yeah.
a quarter.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's like
Hugs.
$2 now.
Yeah.
Yeah, hugs.
They were good.
Someone got their first job. They made $15,000 a year and they bought a $20,000 house. Okay. Like, you
Right.
can't do that anymore.
No.
Right? Inflation just ruins the standard of living. And really, the only reason the dollar worked at all is because everyone's debasing their currency. Everyone's printing more. We were just a little bit more careful with it.
I watched a thing on this. It was called Dollar Milkshake Theory.
I don't
yeah,
know that.
It was
That's,
like,
yeah, that's Jeff Snyder's theory.
Oh, yeah.
All the weak currencies fail up into the dollar.
Yep.
yeah. So it was like, dude, you're still good with the dollar. Stick with the dollar. But I mean, the Bitcoin thing. If I hold on to the Bitcoins, I watch. It says I have more money, but if the dollars are going down,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, like
We call that number go up technology.
Yeah, the money in my bank is not every day it gets worth like less.
Yeah.
So
So what do people tell you to do? They say invest in the stock market, right?
Yeah.
Buy all these other things. But what they don't tell you is that like that's risk, right? Investing is taking on some form of risk. They make it sound like you have to do this just to stay afloat, but what you're really doing is like taking some amount of risk every time you invest in anything,
dude,
right?
that's another thing. There's another thing my buddy was showing me, Vanguard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting here going like, dude, everything's inflation. Like, this is crazy. And my buddy's like, yeah, it's not. I have my Vanguard, so I make 30% on my money. Yeah. So like those people that have those investments are kind of chilling. You
Kind
know what
of.
I mean? Like they're like staying afloat. But if you're not invested in that, everything is skyrocketing.
Yeah, and then and then a company goes under and does bad, and then you lose your investment, and they say, well, then index it all the way out. But then the index doesn't keep up with inflation necessarily, and it's like,
And the important thing here too is like your buddy's doing this, but most Americans cannot do this. What was the stat? Like 60% of Americans cannot afford a $500 emergency
Oh, yeah.
expense.
No
without
shit,
it.
yeah.
So like, yes, the stock market is good and it's working out for a good portion, but like it's a minority portion of U.S. citizens, and that is like, I was radical. I was a senior in high school in 2008 and luckily took an elective economics class and had a base teacher. And he was like, gentlemen, this is fucked up. Like, you should go like,
That must have
figure out
been
why this is
crazy to be a
fucked.
teacher back then and look at young kids and be like, I could show them. You know what I mean? Like like that's gloves are off. I'm going to tell them money's fake.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
then like I went, studied economics and knew it was bullshit what they were teaching me, like caught on to the Austrian economics side of things, and then found Bitcoin. I was like, holy shit, this is the answer. And because like that's the thing that pisses me off the most is that particularly post 08, like Occupy Wall Street, like this gap between the rich and the poor has gotten significantly worse over time as they've been printing more money, and people have been misdiagnosing the problem with like corporate greed, whatever it may be. And to an extent, there is definitely corporate greed out there, but the core of the problem is the money. Like, they fucked up the money, and the politicians and the economists don't want you to talk about that.
It kills me because they must have known.
No, they
Like Obama knew.
Of course.
No way.
Now, he has advisors telling him, like, no, this is the way it's supposed to be.
Right,
you know,
right.
And they're all these Keynesian, dorks that, like, think that, it's like Paul Krugman says, he's like, the debt is just money that we owe to ourselves.
Oh, this is the
It just
great
doesn't
thing.
matter at all. It's
Money
like,
equals debt. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos on that.
Yeah. And
Still doesn't make sense.
And like children can poke holes in this. I mean, it's so vapid and like lacking of substance. And we lost this battle like in the 20s, 30s, 40s, leading up to World War II, and then right after post World War II is like this group, the Austrian economists basically just lost the battle.
What is this Austrian
Yeah, we don't know what
economics
that
thing?
is.
So it's basically like Human Action up here, written by Ludwig von Mises. Him and Murray Rothbard are probably considered like the two most eminent Austrian economists, and they're essentially just free market guys, where you need sound money, don't let the government intervene, and the market will figure everything out.
Okay.
And that's the other thing that pisses me off when I came to learn is they're saying like we can't have free market capitalism. This Obama was an overt socialist to many, like universal health care. They were pitching this like the capitalists are fucking everything up, and they were making like it seemed like people were making good points around that because you saw all these corporations skyrocketing in value, but that was because people needed to push their cash into their stocks to keep up with inflation, and the core of the problem is the money. And like so the Austrians believe in like free market, praxeological, first principles thinking about how money and the economy should work. Like Human Action, economy should not be centrally planned top down by central banks or governments. It is an emergent phenomena that happens in a P2P grassroots manner, and that will lead to the most robust distributed economy that you could ever want.
Who's the last one that had a dub with it?
Us.
Us, really?
Yeah, late 19th century was a golden era for the United States. No
the
taxes.
industrialization of the
No
United
taxes
States.
is crazy. Trump said that on that Rogan where it's like, dude, every year you got to pay that shit, and you're just like, why, God? Like shit sucks in general. There's like homeless people everywhere. There's potholes all over the street. Still got to pay taxes. Nothing happens.
Yeah. And what do they do with the tax money?
Well, I heard that it was
Gender studies in Iran.
the tax money was to keep the dollar. I've heard this.
Well, this is what the MMT people, the modern monetary theory people believe. They think you can print money and blow out the deficit as much as you want, and if inflation goes crazy, you just tax people more, and so they'll pull dollars out of the economy.
They just want to take the dollars back. They're not doing anything with your money.
Yeah,
They just want them out of circulation.
Yeah, well, Nayib Bukele at CPAC this year, I mean, that was like a mask-off moment. It was incredible that he did it. Taxes are a humiliation ritual because the government can just print
Now
money.
we're talking, bro.
They don't.
Why don't they just print? Why do they tax you at all?
I hear you.
Why don't
That's
they
my
just print the
fucking
money
problem.
if they can?
Yeah.
Right? It'll have the same effect. Your money becomes worth less. They have more money to spend on bombs and rockets and ships and gay
like-
stuff.
they
And
treat us like animals.
everyone's happy,
Yeah.
right?
We're just like animals on a farm, dude.
No. But like people didn't live like this forever, right? Under a gold standard, it's like you earn gold.
Would you guys chill if it went back to gold?
Well, gold does have problems. I mean, there's a reason
We're
it
in this
lost out.
problem because of gold's physical nature.
It had these problems around transport. Is like, the new world is found, and how do you settle debts? It's like you got to put it on a ship, and you got pirates, and you got all the like
this is when
custody
the
of gold is
Rothschilds
very
rose up.
difficult.
Well, this is fresh on my mind because I just recorded an episode earlier where we're talking about this, like Bretton Woods, which was the meeting that happened after World War II. All the economists and world leaders got together and they're like, we just fucked up the world. Like, we need to reset the monetary system. And during World War II, all the gold in the world flooded to the United States because it was the safest
Safe
place.
Yeah. Safe to custody it, just to keep it there.
So you had
Right.
80% of the world's gold in the United States. And in Bretton Woods, everybody got together and they're like, U.S., pretty big, pretty stable political system, pretty robust economy, 2 oceans, secure borders. We're
We're like a safe.
gonna keep our gold here and basically use the dollar as reserve currency. The dollar was still tethered to gold to some extent at that point. And so we did that for like 20 years, 30 years almost. And then at one point in the late 60s, France was like, you know what? It's pretty cool over here. World War III was a couple decades ago. We're pretty stable. We want our gold. And they asked the U.S. to deliver their gold back to France. And they were like, it's going to take us a bit. So people are pretty certain that the U.S. was just spending everybody's gold.
It just didn't have it.
And it took them like 6 years to eventually get to
build our highways and
get the gold back to France. And then once France asked for it, and we were like, it's going to take us a while. Other countries were like, what the fuck? Where's our gold? And they started asking for it. And that's in 1971 when Nixon finally was like,
so we're like
up.
disappeared to Panama,
Yeah.
or some shit.
What's that?
All the gold like disappeared to Panama or some
This
shit.
is a conspiracy theory that we believe in.
I mean, I wouldn't
be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, literally, nothing's out of bounds.
We were told that it's in caves in Philippines.
Yeah. This is like Nasser Jasser shit where everyone's going to get a bunch of money and no debt.
You're talking about the beginning of the petrodollar.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Where we had to tether. Nixon came out in August in 1971 and said, we're not tethering the dollar to gold. We're going to float. And it was temporary. It was supposed to be every
What was the
government
point?
program. At that point in the United States, I mean,
We had huge inflation.
The justification was we had high inflation because of the Vietnam War. Oil was screaming, and they needed to get control of that situation. So they tethered us from the connection to gold. But I imagine another heavy influence on that was like other governments coming and be like, we want our gold back. And they're like, all right, you don't need gold anymore. We're not tethering it to gold. And since then, we have the dollar is not backed by anything.
Just
up until
demonetized
1971.
gold. Gold's not money anymore.
Trump said the new oil is Bitcoin. I heard it.
Yeah.
Well,
I get excited about that.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, we'll go back to this. It's like, so gold gets out competed. It's like, it's hard to store, right? It's hard to tell if you trust another custodian, if your gold's even there anymore.
Sure,
It's hard to send. So like, what if you had an asset that was easy, not just for like institutions and governments to like custody and keep safe, but like even individuals could, right? You can send it over the freaking internet, right? Instantaneously, speed of light, right? And it cannot be inflated.
This rip was also brought to you by our good friends at Salt of the Earth. You got to be hydrating, freaks. And while you're hydrating, you got to be getting your electrolytes. This is the best electrolytes mix that I've ever come into contact with. Pink Himalayan salt with calcium, magnesium, potassium, sodium, no sugar. It tastes incredible. My favorite is the orange and the pink lemonade. Go to drinksote.com. That's drinksote.com. Use the code TFTC when you make your purchase, and you'll get 15% off. I'm telling you, get on it, freaks. You're going to love this stuff.
What happens if like the power goes out with Bitcoin? Like, are you good? You're good.
I mean,
Like if we get like
so
You're talking about
EMP
EMP
or some
attacks.
shit.
This
Bitcoin,
kind of
so
stuff.
Bitcoin will be
Yeah.
fine. Bitcoin's globally distributed. We have, I think, 30% of mining hash rate, or the mining industry is here in the United States, but the rest of it is distributed globally. So if you get like an EMP attack locally, yes, you may have some miners go down, but the network will persist. The only material effect that will happen is that blocks will come in a bit slower for a 2-week
for a little
period.
bit, right?
And then the network will adjust and be like, hey, looks like 10% of the hash rate fell off, so we need to make it easier to mine Bitcoin.
We hear this a lot, right? Is like, you know,
Yeah,
what
that
about?
worries
It's
me.
like the death of Bitcoin is
Because
basically
a war
the death
that
of
like
the earth.
do the
Like,
do a war to
yeah.
get the thing to go down.
Oh,
Like
that like
EMP
hash,
some country and then
hash
they go,
wars?
"All right,
Oh,
come
no,
down."
this is like a big topic in the space. Like,
It actually is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we have to think about this type of stuff,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Like,
insane.
Yeah.
you know, how would if you had an adversarial government, they're stacking sats, they're getting Bitcoin, you want to hurt them, right?
Yeah.
You could take down their mining infrastructure, their electrical grid, but there's a lot of reasons you want to do that, not just
Sure,
because
yeah.
of Bitcoin, but like, you know, you'd also starve everyone, and everyone would die of the weather. And,
There's a lot of collateral damage that comes from that. So like I
Yeah.
put like the probability on that like pretty low.
Yeah.
'Cause that's the other thing. Like we have it out here, fix the money, fix the world. Like that's the other thing. Like the way the dollar system works now, it creates this perverse incentive to not cooperate with people.
Yep.
And the idea of Bitcoin where nobody can control it and you're not like trying to fuck with FX pairs or whatever, or central bank policy. You just accept that you can't. And once you accept that assumption, you are essentially forced to cooperate with
So like the whole world is gonna like kind of put down their swords on money, kind of.
Kind of, right? I mean, it's like if you have fair trade, right? Like the incentives of how people cooperate is very different, right? If I'm giving you something of value, right? Bitcoin, right?
Yeah.
You're more likely to cooperate and give me something of value back, right? And that's a fair exchange. If I start giving you stuff that's going to be worth less,
pesos.
right? You're likely to give me something shittier in return, right?
Oh,
There's
yeah.
all sorts of dynamics in trade that change when I'm not giving you something of value to pay for what you're getting.
And we
right?
already see that in the U.S. Like, look at the airlines. Like, what is the quality of service that they're just the quality of service anywhere.
Or a table.
Oh yeah.
Like how hard is it to find a good table that's not just particle board, bullshit. Yeah.
And the more people who have it, the harder it would be to crash. Because like with money, it's like the central banks are sitting there like, flood the market with money. Let's fuck everyone up. But like everyone would have to agree to make Bitcoin worth less in order for it to get fucked up.
It's borders on the realm of impossibility, right? And it like what I would say is that like other incentive to your question is like, okay, there's lots of reasons to invade a country, natural resources and stuff. Sometimes, especially when we're on a gold standard, it's like, I want their gold.
Yeah.
Like it'd be nice to have their gold. And if you can break
right now they want the lithium or the gallium or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But with Bitcoin, it's like, there's no incentive. Like you defeat their army, you take over their central bank or whatever, you still can't get the Bitcoin.
Damn,
right?
that's sick.
It's like the incentive model of like, how do I get their Bitcoin? I might as well just do something they really like and they'll give me Bitcoin for that.
Yeah.
It incentivizes that type of trade.
So like Bitcoin's going up now, and like, what would the world be like for someone that doesn't have Bitcoin in the future?
It's still going to be better.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not going to be as good if they were to buy Bitcoin and participate in its monetization. But going back to just this, like the economy on a Bitcoin standard would provide better goods and services, because that's one thing. The dollar system,
poor people will have a better standard of living.
Yes.
Under Bitcoin.
Yeah, because another negative externality of the way the dollar system works and the way interest rates work is there's no what is defined in economic terms as opportunity costs. So since they can print money and just what they do is they print money and they throw it at a bunch of shit without weighing the risk reward of that initial investment, like what they're actually going to get in the back end. With Bitcoin, since there's only 21 million, when you're spending your Bitcoin, you're forced to make the conscious decision, like, is this actually going to provide something of value at the end of the day?
There's no way you don't want to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Because you're like, what's going to, like.
So you have this like natural forcing mechanism in the economy where if you're going to go do something, it better be worth it to the point where you think you can actually make more Bitcoin by investing in that. And that should ultimately result.
That would be like a paradigm shift, right? Of the world.
I mean, but it's happened before. And you have to watch out for like one thing, which is like the Keynesians and the MMTers and everything. They talk about money hoarding a lot. They're like, but if your money is getting more valuable, then no one will ever spend it. No one will ever. It's like, well, people built stuff under a gold standard. They spent money under a gold standard. And what we're seeing in Bitcoin right now is not what would happen in the future. Once it's like monetized and used as money, right? Right now, we're seeing a process of monetization is that it's not going to 10x in a year. It's not that style of deflationary, right? It will just slowly get more valuable over time. Like slowly, depending on the production of, the productive capacity of the economies that it's working in. And so it's like, there is no such thing as money hoarding, right? It's just, you haven't done something to get the money from the person who has the money, right? You haven't done something valuable enough for them to part with it, right?
Right.
And so it's like, well, what do they want? And you build economies around what people want, right? And so there is no money hoarding. There's no like, oh, I just want to hold on to it. It's going to be so much more, valuable.
Eventually
in the future.
It'll just stop skyrocketing.
It just kind of enters into this steady state. Maybe it's slightly deflationary over that time, but we have other deflationary things in our world right now that we don't say is bad.
What do you mean?
Well, when my dad was a programmer, back in the 60s and 70s.
Your dad was a programmer.
Yeah, my dad was a programmer.
Jesus
My whole
Christ,
family.
dude.
Yeah, dude.
In the 60s?
Yeah,
Did he take the
Teach your
internet?
kids computers. Dude.
Yeah, dude, I had like awesome computers in my room when I was like 6 years old.
Holy
it was so much
shit.
fun. I was playing like X-Wing and shit like that. I
Yeah,
wasn't
that's
doing
awesome.
Laser shoot Larry.
Yeah.
No, is that, a good computer might cost 10 grand, right? And now the computers are way better, but you can get a great computer that is 10,000 times better for $2,000. It's like a deflationary thing. Technology is deflationary.
Okay.
You get better stuff for cheaper. We get better at making it. The technology gets better.
TVs are like,
the first plasma you ever saw was like
$8,000.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now you can get them for like $800 at Costco. Like, $500.
Cheaper than that. It's like $275 now for like a 70 inch.
Some.
Yeah. So like we have these deflationary things. Is that bad for you? Like, does anyone look at that and think like, oh man, this is not going
rules.
well?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, this is like scare tactic is mostly around like, oh, people are going to hoard money and the economy is going to grind to a halt, which never happened.
What pisses you guys off the most about like Bitcoin, people coming at Bitcoin? Like, what's your pet peeves?
The altcoins, dude.
Altcoins?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
the
it's
shitcoins.
made to confuse people. It's why people sit on the sideline. It's called an affinity scam. They make something that looks kind of sort of like Bitcoin. They're like, hey, look, we're exactly like this, except we're totally not. Yeah, but it's just one of the...
That's devilish.
but it's kind of like Beyond Meat's my best comparison. Is like, they don't make... cube slop. They make it look like a hamburger because people like hamburgers. And they're like, hey, look, we're just like a hamburger.
That's
I
a
like
good one.
hamburgers.
Yeah.
But they're feeding you this like goy slop, just nonsense, right? That's going to
Soylent Green.
make you infertile, But they had to pick something. They make it look like a burger. They make it look like a steak because they couldn't get you to eat it otherwise. That's what altcoins are. Right? They're just saying like, oh, it looks just like Bitcoin, except we've done this nasty little thing underneath, like with Ethereum, for instance. I love shitting on it, right? 70% of all Ethereum when it launched was just given to insiders. It was like VCs, the programmers that worked on it, early investors.
That's a scam.
Yeah, and then they dumped it on the retail market, right? Still to this day.
This is what they call the rug pulls, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
right now, as Ethereum inflates, still today, right now, I think it's around 55 to 57% of all Ethereum that exists were part of that pre-sale,
Yeah.
pre-mined. Just like giving out to friends and family.
like the
That's
hot
what they do with
girl.
like the NFTs and shit.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of people have them before, then they go live. And then
Exactly.
they make money.
These are just dumps on retail. And the reason I hate it, the reason I hate it so much is it makes it that much more complicated to explain Bitcoin because they've spent all
Muddying
this,
the waters.
yeah, a lot,
That's
right?
like, we see this a lot at the fund going to raise money. Like the first question we have to answer is like, why Bitcoin and not broader crypto? And
yeah, why not?
You have to
Why not
literally-
Ripple? Why not Ethereum? Why
You have
not?
to spend multiple meetings like rewiring people's brain to understand there's a difference between Bitcoin and the snake oil.
So you're 100% off all of them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But we went through this. There were things back in 2014, 2015 that got me excited.
Yeah.
And, I wasn't like, pure forever or anything, but it's like you get worn down on this after a while. Right?
Yeah,
And you
right.
just start realizing like you watch your friends lose money. You watch, things get, pump and dumped. You watch, all this type of stuff. You watch people raise VC money, do all this stuff, and then run off with the money. Like it's insane. And we just watched it for 10 years now. So we're like a little bit immune to it. It's like, I think people are too willing to give credibility to things. It's like Bitcoin earned it like in the fire. Like in 2011, you had Chuck Schumer on the Senate floor
Lion Chuck.
calling Bitcoin, evil. You had Paul Krugman calling Bitcoin evil. We had to fight through all this stuff. You had Bitcoin getting seized from the Silk Road. You had all these like world events. You had everyone saying it's just for criminals. And it's just,
Yeah.
I watched a
what
Jamie
was all
Dimon
that
video of
about?
that.
yeah.
I watched a Jamie Dimon video shitting on it, saying it's such a small part of it's not a big part of the economy and it's just going to be for criminals.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude's making some really good points there.
Yeah.
That was
right?
like 10 years ago.
Yeah, and so like everyone I'd ever talked to is just like, you're an idiot. To me, it's
Yeah.
like we've watched this happen, and against all odds, right? We've watched it just slowly keep on going.
Yeah,
keep on
Jamie
going, keep on
I
going.
watched that video. and I
Jamie
was-
Dimon is buying and selling Bitcoin.
Yeah, what are
Yeah,
his
so I watched this video, right? And I didn't know it was old. So I'm like, damn, Jamie Dimon, that makes a lot of sense, dude. I'm stupid. This Bitcoin thing's crazy. And then I saw that it was like 10 years ago, and I was
Yeah.
like, man, what an
They
idiot.
have a trading desk now.
Yeah.
It's like
Well, you have to think of his incentives too. Like, what happens if we live in a world in which Bitcoin widely succeeds?
they're the commercial bank. They're the closest to the money spigot, right?
Yeah.
They're the biggest beneficiaries of the Cantillon effect.
If this stuff kicks in, dudes like Warren Buffett are going to be like dinosaurs.
Fuck Warren Buffett.
He's already a dinosaur.
Yeah, he's
Really?
he's done, dude. Like Munger's already out. Warren Buffett. What do you call it? Rat poison.
Rat poison squared.
Yeah. Rat poison squared.
Yeah.
What? That's what he
Exponential
calls,
rat poison.
What?
What's this?
Bitcoin.
Oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Dude drinks Coke.
Yeah.
Yeah, he eats McDonald's every morning. Like it's a miracle that he's still alive.
Now just real quick, because this is the shit that interests me the most is the blockchain stuff for buying whips. Can you try to explain that with registrations?
What?
I was listening to something for like
I know
through
what
the
you're talking
blockchain, you can do registrations and shit. So you're not sitting at the DMV or like something.
Yeah.
Like how is that going to work?
This is
Because
mostly
that made the most sense to me. Where I was like, dude, this shit rules.
This is bullshit.
it's bullshit.
Fuck.
Total nonsense. Yeah. This is one of the first like dragons we had to slay.
Figure it out.
And this is the psyop, right? Is people came out and they said, Bitcoin's okay and everything, but it's really the blockchain technology that's interesting, right? It's another one of those misdirection bullshit things. They're like, Bitcoin's this nice little thing, but the blockchain's going to be fun. You had IBM putting up commercials. We're going to put tomatoes on the blockchain. You had like all these retarded things. And really what it comes down to is that with Bitcoin, the public nature of the ledger, right, is rightfully so. Some people would think like, oh, wouldn't it be cool? We could track like provenance, of like, did this painting come from here if we put it on the blockchain? Or could we tell this tomato was grown in the United States and not in Mexico for like USDA stuff? Or, we could do title for property and just have clean title no matter what. There's one person, but you get into these mechanisms. Like the only reason it works for Bitcoin is because there's all these different incentives. The blockchain isn't just decentralized out of thin air. It's decentralized because there's an economic incentive for miners to like keep on confirming transactions and building blocks, right? For tomatoes on the blockchain, like who's doing this? Like,
there's no incentive.
There's no incentive, right? Even if you're paying for it.
So that because I was always getting freaked out about how it's kind of like a surveillance state tool.
It could be.
Right.
CBDC type stuff.
Yeah, that stuff freaks me out. But you're saying the blockchain, the custody is literally just for mining.
I found one use case for a blockchain.
Like once they're done mining, the blockchain, like what happens?
It persists, and then so like in a block, on this blockchain, each block has scarce data space where transactions can live in, and by the time we get to the point where we'll
be dead. So
when we get to 21 million, I mean, we'll be 99.5% of the way there next decade.
Yep.
So essentially,
we'll be alive,
and at that point, you assume Bitcoin adoption increases. There's a lot of demand for Bitcoin, and therefore a lot of demand to get transactions in the block. And since there's scarce space, you have to sort of bid to get your transaction in the block. So there's fees.
The fees
go
to the miners
to get it onto the ledger.
Yeah. So they don't need new block subsidies coming out because there are no more. But the fees make up how you're incentivizing and paying the miner to do all the work, right?
You guys were talking about something. You were like saying that it's getting monetized. What's that mean?
It's becoming money. Like the monetization of an asset. It's like the demonetization of gold. What was gold going from money to being jewelry and shit like that? Or like, there's been other attempts, like when the Hunt brothers
cornered the silver market.
Tried to corner the silver market. Right, they were trying to remonetize silver. They're trying to like basically say, okay, we buy it all up, and we corner the market.
Was this a couple years ago?
This is like this is like right? Late 70s. This is like the guy who owns the Kansas City Chiefs. They're a big family oil family out of Dallas.
Okay,
and so they cornered a silver market, and they think they're going to remonetize silver, and they're going to put it on parity with gold, and maybe we could go to a silver standard or something like that.
Right.
But the problem is that there's endless fucking silver in Mexico. You can just dig it up; it's everywhere. And so like that didn't really work. But the monetization, process is like, how do we turn something into a money? And the easiest thing to turn into a money is a commodity with a limited supply, right? If it's too easy to get, then it's a shell or it's a glass bead or something like that. US dollars had historically been a pretty decent one because we just weren't as retarded as everyone else, and we generally didn't inflate as fast as the rest of the world.
Right.
So people could trust it, to a certain degree.
And we have the military.
Well, not the military too. Like that was the other thing in like 1971. And a product of the deindustrialization of the United States is once Nixon ripped us off the gold standard, he was warned by this economist, Triffin, Robert Triffin, I think his first name was, who said, if you do this, like to keep the dollar as the world reserve currency, you have to flood every other market with dollars and to drive demand for dollars. So you can keep printing, but you just need to make sure it's in as many hands as possible. So the dilution isn't obvious. And so that's what led to the hollowing out of our industrial base and the offshoring is essentially after
this is like an early NAFTA.
Yeah. Yes. After 1971.
This is the history people need to be taught at school.
The economists in the U.S. were like, all right, to solve this problem, we can't produce these expensive goods here. We need to flood international markets with dollars and buy their cheap goods.
I never had a chance, dude. That was like 10 years before I was born.
I know, right? And then you have to ask the question, it's like, okay, when we were growing up, it's like, the result of that is like we are paying $19.99 for a CD player instead of $29.99, but we don't have Detroit anymore.
Right?
It's like, was it worth it? It's like, what the fuck? What type of bargain was this?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Camden used to be something,
It was awesome.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Dude, Detroit was like the richest city in the United States.
Yeah.
It's just gone. You know, the whole Midwest.
What is America going to look like if they monetize Bitcoin?
Incredible. I mean,
Flying cars, like flying Waymos.
That's the
What are
one
you
thing
talking
about, like, let's use like the ERCOT example here. And this is like not even like it is a monetary use case, but it's really the benefits of Bitcoin, or the first order benefits are the monetary benefits. But then like the way the system works, it creates these second and third order effects, one of which is mining takes a shit ton of energy.
Yeah.
What we're seeing down here in Texas we have ERCOT, which is a private grid.
Oh, yeah, you guys have your own grid,
We
right?
have our own grid.
It rules.
And
Yeah.
Why they try to shit on it?
What?
Why they try to shit on it?
Everyone else tries to shit on it because they don't have it, right? We had that one hiccup in like
Haters.
February
Got cold,
2021.
yeah,
It got cold. We didn't insulate everything. It was like, we're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But since 2021 specifically, China banned mining in 2021. And so all
Yeah.
the miners moved over here and they came to Texas.
Idiots.
What we've seen in Texas over the last 4 years is a rapid expansion of the electricity grid. And predominantly, I would not say predominantly, but like a key part of the expansion has been Bitcoin miners saying, hey, you can expand your capacity for electricity and we will buy that electricity immediately. Because that's the problem all these grids have is they really build their capacity for peak demand periods, which happen in 2 weeks in the summer and 2 weeks in the winter.
Yeah.
So they have all this excess electricity that they're always producing. And between those peak demand periods, nobody's buying most of the electricity. And so
Yeah.
you can't
My electric bill's like nothing.
you can't economically reinvest in capacity expansion because there's most of the year there's not a lot of buyers. But like Bitcoin mining, they're looking for cheap energy and they come in and they say off peak demand, we'll buy all that electricity at a cheaper rate, just give it to us. And then when peak demand comes and electricity prices are skyrocketing, we'll turn off our miners to help electricity prices get cheaper and
a
send it back to
360
the grid.
window.
And so you have this like economic incentive of mining to expand electricity production,
Which is all prosperity.
yeah, which is tightly correlated. That's another thing that happened in 1971, the Adams curve, which tracked energy consumption per capita over time. It goes flat, and energy consumption per capita increasing is directly correlated with human flourishing. And because we fucked up the money, because like investing in grid capacity when you have terrible money is a big risk to take, and so nobody was doing it as much as arguably they should have. Now with Bitcoin, you fix that incentive.
What is the shit you do with what are you putting on these like oil refineries to take the fires and stuff?
So that
Flares.
Oh, the flares.
so that's another energy arbitrage game. So like on grid here in ERCOT, they're saying you have this cheap electricity off peak hours, we'll buy that. That's on grid. So this is off grid when you extract oil and gas. People predominantly want the oil because it's more valuable, and they don't care about the gas, or they don't have pipeline capacity to get the gas to a refinery to get it to a point where it can be sold to market. And so what they'll do, due to EPA regulations, typically they would just like vent the gas, just like let it go up to the atmosphere.
I've
But it's
seen
pure.
that.
It's pure methane, and the EPA was like, you can't do that. You got to burn it and turn it into CO2 because that's less burdensome for.
Yeah, we used to have a refinery not far from us.
Yeah. So what we did at Great American Mining is we showed up to these oil companies that were flaring gas on these well pads. We said, hey, stop flaring that gas. Instead of setting it on fire, run it through this pipeline to this generator, and the generator created electricity, and we had shipping containers with miners in them. And they would power the miners, and you
Sounds
could
pretty
mine
simple.
Bitcoin with it. It is.
It's very real world though. It's just like people think of Bitcoin
it's
as
a
like this
mine,
like it's this like nebulous thing. It's like no, it's people like that going to sources of power. You know, they're fighting over the cheapest forms of energy because that's your competitive advantage, right? So if someone's just flaring gas out into the atmosphere and you can bring a generator and a shipping container over there, it's like that's a competitive advantage. So we start using all the energy that we possibly can. But what's even better than that, though, is that now you have the incentive to fund and support the building of new energy sources, new power production, right?
Right.
And what we all know is like the more power production you have, the more, the more aircraft carriers you can build, right? The more buildings you can build, like the more roads you can build, like everything. Prosperity just booms when you produce more
You guys
energy.
are pumping me up with this.
Yeah.
Like what you were saying
He's
that
old.
you were saying that they're like, so I read that they're gonna mine till like 21 something, but
2140 is
but
like,
most of it is gonna be done in the next couple of years.
yeah.
So this is it.
Yeah. I mean, so
Like-
that's the other, that was part of like the bootstrapping mechanism. Another really smart thing that Satoshi did is to incentivize people to play with Bitcoin early. He made the initial block reward very high. So half of all Bitcoin that will ever exist was mined in the first 4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then,
And it's getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
yeah,
It
so
cuts
that-
in half every 4 years.
yeah, the way technically ever 210,000 blocks. So like started at the Genesis block 0. Between block 0 and block 210,000, it was 50 Bitcoin per block were being distributed to the market. Once you hit block 210,000, that automatically got cut to 25.
Right.
420, it got cut to 12 and a half. 630, it got cut to 6.25. And now where we are today, we passed 840. Earlier this year, 3.125 Bitcoin are distributed.
What was the first equation?
The first what?
Equation.
The math problem.
There is like a
There is a really elegant like solution for
probably
this.
have
This is
tattoos
called like
of
the
it.
halving, like
Yeah.
the Bitcoin halving.
Yeah.
It's really
What is
quite
that?
simple actually.
When they go, oh man, wait, it's coming up. We're gonna do a halving. What's that?
that's what I just described.
The
So like,
software
Okay,
just
yeah.
does it
210
automatically,
Yeah.
right? It just cuts the reward, the subsidy that goes out to the miners, and like everyone knows about this, right? And so like all the miners are like, you know, the way they fund their own businesses and stuff like that has to be, you know, congruent with, you know, knowing how many Bitcoin you're going to be producing based off how much electricity you're spending and how many machines you have running. So it's like, but the thing is that the rules of the game are very well known, right? And that's what you want in a monetary base. Is like what here's a funny one is like when Cortez comes to the United States, he's writing back to the King of Spain constantly, like, you know, we're doing this. We found these people here, you know, came to the United States. What am I saying? When he came to the New World, you know, but one of the things that's kind of funny is, you know, they're sending back gold and silver. And stuff like that.
Conquistadors, yeah, man.
The conquistadors are doing this, right? The problem is that like that's like they didn't have a lot of gold in South America and in Mexico. They had a lot of silver, but not a lot of gold. And so everything they sent back was basically the entire civilization's extraction of gold, you know, for thousands of years, right? Yeah, but what's really funny is when it gets back, you know, to
Ferdinand?
Charles or Ferdinand, I can't remember which one's in, is that they're like, what's the deal? Are you sending me faulty gold? It's not worth as much.
It's not good.
Because they're inflating their economy, right?
Yeah.
Like they didn't understand, like, you know, what was going on.
So they were dumber with
It's just-
monetary stuff.
yeah, I mean, like, but you had never had this like this moment, at least in their lifetimes, where all of a sudden all this fucking gold just shows up,
Yeah, so
like in your
we've-
economy.
We've
right?
been like figuring out money, and now we're here at Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Like as a civilization.
yeah,
That's pretty cool.
it's kind of great,
Yeah.
right?
No, I mean, Satoshi, like I mentioned the Genesis block, like he made explicit declarations like, I'm here to fix the money. The Genesis block had a headline from the London Times that day, which was about the British Chancellor bailing out the banks there. One of his first emails that he wrote to the list is like, I created this because governments and central banks can't be trusted to not debase the currency. And
That's
like,
what's up. Yeah.
who knows what will happen ultimately, but like I strongly believe that like we seriously figured out how to fix the money and there may be no turning back. Like,
So you guys trust this man?
Who's Satoshi?
that's
We consider it impolite to speculate because obviously, I'll give you a reason why
Yeah.
though, right? Is it like Satoshi's obviously a fake name, right? And there's probably like 30 people it could be, and he went through great lengths not to identify. So it's like it's just doctrine.
It's rude.
Yeah, it's rude.
Don't be rude.
Yeah, don't be rude, right? And a lot of people speculate on it, but like there's like 30 guys, right, that you can look into. You know, the Wade Dyes and Nick Szabos and Adam Backs and Peter Todds and all these guys that were into this stuff. They all talk to each other. They're all on mailing lists together and stuff like that. It's almost certainly one of those guys.
They all see my Patriots?
What?
They all
I mean, they're
seem
not
like-
all American.
Okay.
You know, but
Or just, you know,
a lot of
in
them
the
are.
sense, yeah.
You know, there's Hal Finney. He died of ALS, and he received the first ever transaction from Satoshi, and worked on the protocol a lot in the early days, where it was just him and Satoshi writing the code. There's all these like people that were either involved or around this problem at the time, but at the end of the day, like Satoshi doesn't. Here's a really funny thing, right? The way Ethereum worked, where like they had 70% of all Ethereum like given to insiders. you could argue that the first block ever mined would be unfair, right? That the first 50 Bitcoin ever mined would be unfair because Satoshi's pretty much the only person, unless he just
that knows that this is going on.
That this is going on. He has to launch the network, right? Well, funny enough, there's only one block that's unspendable, which is the first block. It's like it's created as a fair system.
It's like sword and the stone kind of stuff, dude. It's like mythological.
It gets you going. Yeah. But like, yeah, I mean, like he set up the fairest system he possibly could. Obviously, the early miners, were getting these big rewards, but you have to get the network going.
Yeah, so there's miners that like fire up the gas line or whatever. They get close to the power, and they don't get a coin. They don't win the coin.
Yeah.
That I didn't know that. I thought you could just, it was a guarantee. Like, plug in the computer, you're going to get a Bitcoin.
The way it works now, like now mining is at the scale it is, you pool your mining power together with other miners. And so you have what are called mining pools. And the idea there is that you get other miners together, you all point your hash rate at this pool. Inevitably, one of the miners in this pool is going to find a block, and the pool will send it to the network, and then all the miners contributing their hash rate to the pool get a little piece of that reward.
Yeah. And this is only going to go on for a little while longer.
No, it goes on forever.
Oh, okay.
So right now they get a subsidy for doing this, and in the future they'll just earn whatever fees are coming through.
I got you. Yeah. Right.
So are coming from the transaction. So even now, I mean, there are some blocks where fees are very high, where it's a big part. But generally speaking, the subsidy is still like the meat. What the miners are going after. Sometimes they get a high fee amount, sometimes they don't. But like, again, as Bitcoin monetizes, right, and there's more competition for this like small amount of block space, right, is that the fees get higher and higher and higher to where like, we're going to have thousands of dollars of fees on the main chain, which is probably making you really nervous right now when I say that. But the idea is that like, we'll just transact like when you buy, a water or something like that, right? There's no reason that transaction needs to be stamped on the most valuable blockchain immutable for the rest of history, right? That's ridiculous.
When is it going to be more used? Like,
I think
it's just prediction. Like, shoot,
I mean, it depends on what you mean by more, right? It's like I
go
used every single day.
Yeah,
so like merchant adoption and things like that. Like I have a basic theory of this.
It's been a recurring meme for a decade.
Yeah, is that like generally what happens is like as Bitcoin is getting more monetized, like the merchants really push this, not like the individuals buying stuff. It's like they say, I want Bitcoin. So they start looking around. They're like, okay, these other companies that are getting Bitcoin into their treasury, they're doing pretty well. Economy goes down, they can still pay their employees. That's pretty nice, right? They have a treasury asset that doesn't just melt out from under them and get inflated away by the government. So like, well, how do we get some of that Bitcoin? And they're like, well, the most economic way we could do it is if we just traded our services for Bitcoin. So like you'll start seeing like some taco stands and some restaurants and some venues that you see sports at or music at or something like that. One by one, they start doing this, and those companies do better and better and better than the companies that don't.
So it's like evolution.
Yeah. It just keeps on going.
I think it's going to take a while. Like, and it depends. Like we have a very specific point of view here in the United States. Like for instance, for TFTC, I have people who help us with post-production and making clips that work in Colombia, and they like demand to get paid in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like,
we have the better currency, right? So
yeah.
All the other countries probably want Bitcoin over everything.
Yeah.
And then aren't other countries using Bitcoin as their money?
So there's one.
Okay.
Like El Salvador made Bitcoin legal tender. They're the first ones to do that. But in most countries, they have such shitty money that like their money's actually dollars, right? And so if you go to Africa, it's like no one's like demanding like any of the local currencies.
Dude, I went to Egypt and their currency is trash.
Yeah, we got friends that live out in like Lebanon, Jordan, Middle East over there. Especially in Lebanon, though, they're going through pretty close to hyperinflation right now. It's like everyone there would take Bitcoin over their local currency, right? Like that's for damn sure. And so we get it. It's actually kind of amazing that it took off in the United States, given that we have the best comparative money, right? But I would say, like to your point, like I think we'll see a big wave in the next 10 years. A big wave. Now that doesn't mean that like we've replaced the dollar or anything close to that, but that like the marketplace for Bitcoins are actually it is just as common to earn a Bitcoin as it is to go to an exchange and like buy it like you would a stock or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I got a question. What's a node?
So a node.
I heard you guys say node. I was like, that's hilarious.
It's essentially a computer where you download the rules of Bitcoin and you ensure that everybody's following the rules. So like that's in Bitcoin. A lot of people say
You probably got one on that computer.
don't trust, verify. I do. You can download the Bitcoin software, download the ledger, and participate in what's known as consensus. And so people, when I download the software, I say these are the rules to Bitcoin. If somebody tries to send me a transaction that are not following the rules as defined on the software on my computer, I reject it. And the rules are there only ever be 21 million Bitcoin.
So if someone tries to send you a Bitcoin and you're looking at it and it's like their version of Bitcoin has 42 million Bitcoin, you're like, whoa, that's not real Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So if someone tried to inflate it, and like you get to run. So if you're receiving Bitcoin transactions through your own node and you know what your software considers to be Bitcoin, right? Then you can be damn sure you're not going to get ripped off. Like with gold, again, comparing to like the deficiencies in gold. So how many people got ripped off with fake gold?
You got to bite it.
Yeah. You got to buy it. But what if you get a bar and you have to drill into it and you have to do all the shit, right? So saying whether it's real or not is actually difficult in the gold world. You have to use fucking acid and all the shit, right? With Bitcoin, you download a thing on your computer. If you're receiving Bitcoin, especially a lot, you might have a trusted third party for small transactions where you're like, oh, this guy's paying me $10. Like if he rips me off, he rips me off. But if you're taking like a big, invoice or something like that, you run it through your node, make sure that it's real Bitcoin.
Yeah. And this goes back to like the credibility of 21 million. There's tens of thousands of people running nodes on their computers
and businesses.
And to change Bitcoin, you'd have to convince
too many.
That's what I was asking.
Too many of them.
The more people, the harder it is to fuck with the thing.
So there are forks of Bitcoin, Dogecoin, which you've heard about, and like Litecoin. These are at the time that they were created, like Litecoin is like, it's just the Bitcoin software with more Bitcoin. That's how it starts. Now they've diverged a lot since that moment, right?
Yeah.
But at that moment in time, they're just like, what if we had, 70 million Bitcoin?
4x. It's 84 million.
Or 84 million Bitcoin. And they're like, that's our new coin. And
so that's like your fear is like Bitcoin right now, you guys think is pretty perfect? Like pretty close?
Pretty close.
But
monetary policy wise, yes.
Somebody could mess with it?
Well, people try constantly.
Yeah, 2017 was 2017 was one of the most pivotal years in Bitcoin because you had all the largest exchanges, all the largest investors, many prominent
influencer
advocates.
types.
Roger Ver,
the Bitcoin Jesus.
Yeah.
He was on yesterday.
They basically got together. They had 90% of the network hash rate, and they said, we're going to change the rules of Bitcoin to increase the block size so we can fit more transactions in each block. And
why are they always trying to fucking meddle in things?
And then we said no.
Yeah. And then tens of thousands of people running it on their software, like, fuck that. Like, just because Coinbase says I need to do it doesn't
greedy, dude.
Yeah.
And they tried to do it and they failed miserably.
Yeah. And then they started investing in shitcoins. Because they're like, well, if we can't control this, then that's when you start seeing Coinbase list I get notifications on my phone. It's like Bonk is up 30%.
Yeah.
It's like, is this a serious financial services institution trying to sell me Bonk?
What the fuck is Bonk? It's a casino. They're trying to win.
Yeah, exactly.
I got it.
And if you're an exchange, your incentive is like to sell anything under the sun. Make everything look good. But these guys, not only did they fail, they didn't even come close at the end of the day. It really wasn't even a competition. They failed to get consensus in a spectacular fashion. And all these things, that's a check on the box. It's like, okay, powerful internal, and this was industry players try to overtake the platform, or the network. It didn't work.
And one could argue at that point, I think Bitcoin was like a $20 to $50 billion market cap around then. And so it was much smaller. And so you'd think, that's like one hedge fund's AUM. You could throw money and change Bitcoin, but the common man, people with very little Bitcoin, but were for the cause and wanted to make sure that Bitcoin didn't change.
Protectors
ran the software. And basically, it was like David versus Goliath.
Now this makes it. There are some things that I might like that Marty doesn't or something like that, right? There's always some sort of proposal going on in Bitcoin to change it, right? I would say
how
Marty,
many people have to agree on that though?
You just have to be persuasive, right? You have to be able to convince tens of thousands of people and industry players and different economic incentives. Like miners want different things than exchanges, and investors want different things than financial services operators.
So this is all going on in the background.
So what's great about that is that if you have what I would consider a almost perfect or probably perfect monetary policy, you really don't want it to change,
Yeah.
right? And if you want stability, even as like a programmer who's like building software on top of this, it's like, imagine if you're making games for Xbox and all of a sudden they're like, oh, by the way, you need some gobbledygook thing over here or else your game won't run. It's like, that's a disaster. You actually want a stable platform to build on. You don't want it to change very much, right?
This is what happened to the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights was perfect, and then they just started meddling in it, and all these bad actors.
I'm anti-Bill of Rights.
I hear you, bro.
Yeah. I just wanted the Constitution, no Bill of Rights.
That's what I'm
man.
saying. Yeah, some Constitution type thing where it's like, dude, we cannot fuck with this for the love of God, meddlers.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool. Do you remember like back in like 2019, 2020, people were trying out these little towns with their own money? I don't know if you guys remember this, but it was like
it's like Miami coin.
Yeah,
I know about that.
But like they should set up
I
a
met Mayor
place.
Suarez and told him that it was a
You're
dumb
like, dude,
idea.
don't be stupid. This is like putting tomatoes on the blockchain, man. Like,
Yeah, like they should set up a place in America that's like, this is the Bitcoin town. This
an
is what it
economic
would.
free zone.
This is what it would look like.
No, you have all. Like, there's another good book you guys should read, Strong Towns by Chuck Marohn, and this is like, it's one of the only things where I look at Nayib Bukele and I'm like, don't do that. Like he was like, we need a Bitcoin city.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not like it's all emergent. Like you
Yeah.
can't like centrally like going back to like central planning, like Austrianville. That's like a centrally planned idea of a city, like, and that it'll never work.
Okay.
And that's like that's the other thing that. I think people are very impatient when it comes to Bitcoin. Like I said earlier, people want it to be fully monetized, fully accepted, fully available. It's just not the case, and people have to come to grips with the fact that it's going to take time for this adoption to naturally play its course.
So you guys are like the people who had the internet early. And like, why are people still sending me fucking letters? Like, it's just that's just how it's done right now. But we could email if you wanted to.
Yeah.
So you're just chilling for the time being.
And the internet took decades to
it's like my
actually
whole
emerge.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like
JPEGs took a long time to load, brother.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, I'm a little bit older than you guys, and so like I was like on the internet in 1995. Like that's really like a lot of people got on 96. They say 95, but they're lying. Like 95 is like
People who steal that valor.
right? Yeah, all the time.
Well, did you ever see that thing where it was like,
I'm gonna hipster them and just be like, no, 95.
there was a time where you could see all the people on the internet. Like there was like a phone book for it.
Oh, yeah, I mean, especially with things like BBSs and stuff like that. Like, yeah, I ran well, I didn't run it. My older brother did. I was a little bit young, but like we would run BBSs and you get little directories of them. And then like I'd run up a phone bill. We ran up a $900 phone bill back in like 1993. my parents walked in there like, what? Why are you calling Russia? Like, what is going on? Why are my 14 and 10-year-old kids
Like
Who are you
on a
talking to in
modem or
Russia?
something?
What's that?
Like on a modem or something? Or on
Yeah,
the
we
phone?
had like direct modems, and you would directly connect to these BBSs, these BBS systems, and like someone had like a sick site, and so we were like, okay, we got to
That's
call into
cool.
Russia, and we'd like take down their like code and everything and try to recreate it, and
Damn,
like
that's so cool.
but like, even before that, like, you have research institutions like doing stuff. It's like it took decades and decades for the internet to fully form. We're 13 years or 16 years into Bitcoin at this point.
Yeah, so it's
right?
early days.
It's still pretty early, right? Like
This might be like the ARPANET phase.
yeah, but you have this like these things, right? Credibility wise is like you have this monetary policy that can't change. It's been attacked over and over again, always failed, right? And then you have what Marty was talking about earlier is like we have gigawatts upon gigawatts of energy being spent to produce new blocks and protect the network, right?
Yeah.
And it's like the attack vectors keep on shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. It's like if you wanted to attack Bitcoin in, January of 2010, it wouldn't have cost you all that much.
Right.
But now it's going to cost you trillions.
It's cool, man. It's kind of like its own like entity outside of like countries and stuff. You know what I mean? Like it'll exist. Bitcoin will just be a thing.
Yeah. And it's completely
It'll be
separate
like
of the
money will
state.
be separate from all other things.
Yeah, when we talk about like freedom or separation of church and state, separation of the state and control over speech, like it's the thing that people need to understand. You need separation of money and state too. And that's what Bitcoin provides.
Oh,
And I guess
sweet.
it kind of makes sense with like the whole, like if you had gold, America could come steal your gold. If they kill you, like you were saying earlier, it's like you're fucked. You just have a mess to clean up and that's about it.
You don't get their Bitcoin. They can store it in a way. And you as an individual, this is what's really cool. Is like you can get state level security of your own Bitcoin, whether it's, $10,000 or $10 million. It doesn't really matter. You can basically store your Bitcoin the same way a nation state would.
Yeah.
Right? for a couple $100.
Well, the first time I heard about Bitcoin, I only had like $300, and I was like, I couldn't have done it. I had to survive. Then the next time I heard about Bitcoin, Jack Dorsey went on Rogan and was like, just get the Cash App.
Yeah,
you guys can buy Bitcoin. So I was looking at my history, and the first time I bought Bitcoin, it was $7,000,
Nice.
and I bought $50.
Well done.
And but what would you now? Like, what would it be now? The good way to get Bitcoin
So
and like store Bitcoin,
you buy it or you earn it, right? Same way you get money. It's just money.
right?
Right. And so like you can buy it on something like Cash App, right? You buy, tens or hundreds of dollars at a time. It builds up. And then like there's different security postures, just like there is for dollars. It's like there's a certain amount of dollars you'll carry around in your wallet, right?
Yeah.
There's a certain amount of dollars you'd be comfortable putting in a safe at your house. There's a certain amount of dollars that you want in a bank account that's FDIC insured and all that stuff, right? And so the same is true with Bitcoin. Is like there's an answer for all that. Like you can have a little bit of money on a hot wallet on your phone, that's like a username password, right? You can have a little bit more money on an exchange, right? If it's a lot of money, and a lot is relative, it's like you want to do what's called cold storage, which is where like instead of trusting a third party to hold the money for you, which is what's so fucking awesome about Bitcoin, is that like you even have this option, right? It's a bearer asset. It's like I can just keep it. But it doesn't have all the downsides of a bearer asset like gold or cash, where it's like I can keep it, but I can actually keep it safe. Like if I had $2 million of gold, right, I wouldn't keep it in my house. That'd be fucking insane. Like I'd give it to Brinks and they put it in a cage somewhere, right? But that centralizes like the custody of gold. It goes to these big places where they get armed guards and stuff. It's like I hold my own keys. And so, but I can hold my own keys in lots of different ways. And I don't want to confuse you with too many, but it's basically the idea is that like I can get multiple keys, right? Where I can place them in different places. I can, I have a place in Wyoming. I can put it up in Wyoming and in Texas. I have one in a safety deposit box. I can have backups for it all over the freaking globe if I want, right? Or I can use friends and trusted, like actually, not like a banking trusted, but like my brother, or my dad or something like that, right? But even they couldn't screw me over if they tried to do something with the key. And you can have redundancy. It sounds complicated and I won't go into everything, but like you can do this. It's totally accessible. There are companies that will help you do it where even they can't screw you over, right? And you can just hold your coins.
I mean, it's better than I go to the bank. I'm trying to pay someone. They don't have the money. I have to drive all around the city. I had to drive all around the city to pay a roofer. Yeah. And they were like, I was like, guys, I'm looking at the money in my account. They're like, well, we don't have that here. And I was like, it was $3,000 that they were like, we can't give you more than 3,000. I'm like,
what are you for?
I'm like, that's 10 people coming in for 300. How do you not have that? And you call yourself a credit union.
Yeah, all these controls and this is just a trusted third party system. It's like it could be they limit you in some way.
It makes you ask, "What is that actually my money? Like, give me my fucking money."
I mean, dude, it was pretty clear it was not my money, and I had to go. They sent me to like the most dangerous location to get the rest of it.
You have to go get cash.
Yeah, to go get cash because people want to get paid in cash in construction.
Yeah.
But we would enjoy Bitcoin, man, especially if you could just like tap it or whatever. Like, I don't know how you would do it. But
yeah, everyone's working on those. So like everything you can do, like, I have a little tap card right now. I'm not going to say that it's 100% as like convenient as like dollars and everything are. Yeah. But like we're getting pretty damn close.
Well, nobody believed in construction that you would get paid on Venmo.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And
we do it all the time now, I bet.
And then QuickBooks does whatever they go through Stripe or whatever that is.
I think it is. I forget, but there's like email like shit, and it's like kind of reminds me of stuff because like you can see when someone sees the email. Yep. You can see if they looked at it. You can see when you get paid. Yeah, same shit.
Yeah, but when I started, it was like you handed someone like one of those like white, pink, yellow things. Yeah, you wrote it out, and like that was it. Yeah, because all the old heads they wanted to get paid in either personal check or cash.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, our industry's never going to change.
And I think that's how you see it progress.
All just send me an email. I get paid before I get home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. You have people that work for you. They say they want Bitcoin, right? Now all of a sudden you have an obligation in Bitcoin, right? Like you have to get Bitcoin for that.
I have to.
You have to find out how to get it. And so one of the things you might do is say like, well, the people that are paying me, I'm going to make them pay me in Bitcoin because I have to pay other people in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
This is how like economies emerge, right? And it's like if I have obligations in Bitcoin that I'm going to ask other people for Bitcoin, it's like that takes a while.
So it might be bottom up.
Happen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like people being like, give me Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like small businesses, like they're usually the first ones to come on board. Like we deal with a lot of people that like at Zaprite, like the payments company I do, is like most of our companies are like dentists. Why dentists? It's like, well, because they own their own business. They can just decide. They don't have to talk to a board of directors or anything. I want Bitcoin. So they put up the option and some of their customers pay them in Bitcoin. And they're
That's cool.
pumped on
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So you just need to get to the point where you join the logos that are on like the thing at like Wawa or something.
Yeah.
They're, like,
Yeah.
underneath
Yeah.
American Express.
Yeah.
What about the ATMs? Are those sus?
They just charge big fees.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can get Bitcoin there.
I don't understand how that even works.
And now they're at the point where you need to like give them your phone number, your
Yeah.
license, and all that stuff.
Oh, good.
I mean, that was their value prop earlier, and is like you can bring cash, give them the little information, and get the Bitcoin out. Like,
Is
they're
there
worried
like
about
a way
privacy.
with Bitcoin to do it more like be safer just transacting with people? Like say you are working for someone, is there like a holding thing you can put it in, you both agree to pay and stuff? Or
Yeah, it's
like
called
escrow?
multi-sig. So this company
Yeah.
right down the hall here, Unchained, that's what they do. I have a business account there. It's you have a quorum of 3 keys. So you create a wallet, and the condition is there's 3 keys that can access the wallet. You need 2 of the 3 to move the Bitcoin. And so for my business, I hold a key, my bookkeeper holds a key, and Unchained holds a key. And to move any of the Bitcoin out of there, I need to sign, my bookkeeper needs to sign.
It's like firing a nuke.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like an old Byzantine vault, like multiple keys. But it's like, again, you're trying to take trust out of the system. It's like, you still have a relationship with a financial services institution, but what they can't do is like Unchained cannot get a subpoena from the U.S. government that says, take all of Billy's Bitcoin.
What were you saying the other day about the FDIC?
FDIC. I was saying the FDIC is a government entity that like forces these financial services company. They get a lot of control over these companies when you're regulated by them.
The banks particularly.
Yeah, the banks particularly. Is that in Wyoming, along with like Caitlin Long and Matthew Kaufman and the Wyoming legislature, we set up a corporate formation where basically it was a bank, right, that could not lend money. And if you're a bank that cannot lend money, you are not overseen by the FDIC. Because the FDIC, if you're not lending, has no jurisdiction over your entity. So the idea was that you would have a fully reserved bank that could custody these like digital assets, Bitcoin, stablecoins, stuff like that, right? And that the only thing that bank couldn't do is lend. And if you don't have the FDIC breathing over your neck, there's a lot of other things that you can do to be of greater value to your customers.
So there's no fractional reserve banking with that.
Yeah.
That's
how
it.
are you a greater value to the customer that way?
Well, I mean, like a lot of these rules that you have to follow as a bank, and like and a lot of the overhead.
This is why they don't have the money.
Is that
they don't have your money.
They don't have your money, and like the FDIC is trying to like make they're basically ensuring that like if this bank goes under, we'll still get your money back.
Yeah, at least
right.
$350
And in order to hold
Kind
a
of sounds
bank,
like a mob boss.
well, it is. Yeah, it's just like and so what they get to do in order for a bank to get that certification is like they get to boss you around. They get to say like, well, if you want our stamp of approval, you have to do things exactly the way we say. And they have 10,000 pages of regulations and shit you have to do, which is why these banks get like, under a Bitcoin standard, like a lot of people say like Bitcoin's going to kill the banks. I'm like, not exactly. It's going to kill a bank.
Yeah.
The central bank, right? There'll still be banks. There'll still be financial institutions doing stuff, right? And it's like, I do have some sympathy for some banks and bankers over time where it's like the bank doesn't want your social security number and every single thing about your life. They're forced to take all that information and then they get hacked, right? And all your information leaks out and they get blamed, but they didn't even want it in the first place. The Bank Secrecy Act post 9/11, right? And
that's post 1970.
Oh yeah, sorry, it's Patriot Act, and the Bank Secrecy Act and all these things layer up these things that the banks have to comply with, and so they have these huge compliance offices and they have all these fucking burdens that they have to deal with.
It's a movie or a documentary I saw. They were talking about how in the 80s banks were just like small time things.
Yeah.
And then it grew into this thing that's like on Wall Street kind of like banking.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that got out of control.
It's because we tethered ourselves from gold, untethered ourselves from gold and dollar, and you had this crazy credit expansion with all these banks were able to create money out of thin air and take undue risk with it. And so it's led to this massive consolidation. I mean, post 08, like I'm sure you've seen the flow chart. There was, I think, like 600 banks that consolidated into 4 JP Morgan banks.
Are you serious? Yeah. So they just gobbled up all the banks?
Yeah. So like all the smaller banks, like
centralizing risk.
That's where it's like too big to fail came out. Like JP Morgan and the others would have failed, but they had too many customers and too much money within their confines. The U.S. government's like, we have to bail them out, or
that must have made him go even crazier with all this spending now, because it's like, dude, if you don't get fucked from that crash, like spend as much money as you want. What the fuck are they gonna do?
They take as much risk
as the hell we want.
It was a license.
It bubbled up last year. Like they've all taken crazy treasury risk. And that's the thing, like it's become such a Frankenstein that they're like pulling levers and the monster's getting bigger, and like every lever they pull, they don't know what the consequences are going to be. And so you see like fragility popping out at places you wouldn't expect.
And by the way, I'm not sticking up for the banks in their modern formation, right?
Yeah.
The older banking system is like, it was much more boring and plain Jane type stuff. Yeah. Like in this banking system, it's like, it's even more sinister than that. It's like, you think that, or not you, sorry.
That's like the thing I watched was like banking was boring.
Yeah.
That's what it was. Yeah.
But like people think that like Elizabeth Warren is like out to get the banks. It's like, no, she runs a protection racket for the banks. The banks love Elizabeth Warren. They want all the regulations that can happen because only they can comply with them. No more competition, right? And, people say like, oh, Bitcoin is for criminals. It's like, really? Like you think Al Qaeda wants Bitcoin instead
the
of US
Jamie Dimon
dollars?
thing was like, it's only going to be used in like, in Asia for criminals. And
No, Jamie Dimon has laundered more money.
I'm just saying, this is what he said, dude.
That's the one that pissed me off. The criminals, it pissed me off a lot because like Jamie Dimon was Jeffrey Epstein's
He's not
banker.
criminal, dude. Stop.
And like that whole, what was like in the Bahamas, they just threw out that
it's
case. They were just like, Deutsche Bank. Like after Epstein got out for sex trafficking in 2013, like he was openly wiring hundreds of thousands of dollars cross borders through Deutsche Bank and JP Morgan.
Yeah.
Well, they pay a subscription fee to the EU and the United States to launder money. And then sometimes it gets public and they pay a $20 million, $50 million, $100 million fee. That's their subscription to say, well, no, we're the only ones allowed to launder money. Right?
Right.
And that's basically what it is.
The cost of doing business, the profit they make
they love
that is in the billions.
Oh my God.
So this is Bitcoin makes all that go away.
It can.
Or a lot of it.
I'm not going to say it makes like money laundering go away, but like, it makes it like more like you don't have central control over who can and cannot send money where. And
it takes the racket out of it, right? It's like people still do it, but you don't have the Elizabeth Warrens of the world virtue signaling that they're, consumer protection programs. They're really just mob bosses like getting a payout to launder money.
So they're like, you're saying they're just pulling levers. They don't know what's going on. They're fucking with the money pretty bad. Things might get real bad. Like
so what we've done since 08 specifically is just band-aid over a systemic fragility problem.
I keep hearing
it's
that.
only getting worse.
Like that's what COVID was. If you go on like Dredge Report or Zero Hedge, it's like the dollar's crashing next week. And like,
no, I mean,
you just look at your money and you're like, why?
Like the COVID, like that's like a theory. Like I would not be surprised if COVID was just an excuse to print a bunch of money. Because if you were paying attention in the fall of 2019, there was a spasm in the banking system where there was no liquidity and the banks were about to fail. The Fed had to step in and bail them out.
See, I wouldn't have known that.
2 months later, COVID happens and they have to print $5 trillion and that liquidity problem solved overnight.
They printed more money than had ever existed before.
So they were like, how are we going to we'll have to chuck up a pandemic. Yeah.
What is it? It's like something like
pangolins.
80%. I think it's 80% of all dollars that have ever existed were printed in the last
4 years.
So like we don't even know how toast we are.
We're pretty fucking toast, bro.
Well, are you going to pay back what $38 trillion?
It just pisses me off because like you guys know
your budget.
Like you guys know that. So fall of 19, this shit's going on. I don't. I'm paying a house.
Yeah, and
I'm just sitting there waiting to get paid, and I'm dreaming of my future life and my future wife, and fucking I'm gonna build all this stuff. Like, oh, maybe me and Bill will get a house. And it's like nobody's telling us, yo, we fucked up.
Yeah,
your dollars are gonna over the next 5 years, your dollar is gonna be worth a quarter.
Yep.
That's what happened.
Yep.
Like my dollars are worth a quarter now.
But Biden said it didn't happen. Bidenomics, man.
Well, that's the other thing too.
CPI, they tell you, oh no, it's only inflating like 7-8%, and it's like, no, it's not.
That's-
like I buy steak. I know what I know what it
Yeah.
Are
costs.
you guys
And they-
aware of the CPI?
Negative.
I don't know what CPI
Consumer
is.
Price Index, which
Oh, yeah.
tracks inflation.
Oh, yeah, dude, my buddy just sent
It's
us
fake.
this.
It's
entirely fake.
entirely fake.
Wait,
like
what?
they literally
Yeah.
It's so back to what the fuck happened in 1971. Like that was like
That's the thing he sent me. What happened in 1971? It's
Yeah.
a website.
Yeah, it's great. These guys are awesome. Yeah.
And so basically what happened there is like you took us out to Gold Center, we could print a bunch of money, and inflation was already bad then. They were like, we need to figure out a way to solve this inflation problem, because when inflation goes up, historically, any civilization, that's when you get civil unrest and overturning of the government. They changed the CPI, and so the CPI is just a bunch of inputs of goods, and it tracks the changes of prices. But in the 70s, they introduced what they call hedonic adjustments, which allow them to
The name.
Hedonism?
to change out what the inputs are on the inflation. So back in 1970, when you're tracking beef, it was like a ribeye. Now it's like grade B ground beef. And so
Oh,
So they're like, oh, that didn't go up that
dude.
much.
they
Sneak
take out
attack.
energy, they take out
That's
travel.
like the shit with like
Energy is not in the CPI.
Yeah.
If energy goes up in
Energy's
price,
the main thing.
inflation
Yeah.
does not change.
And so they've been trying
say.
they've been trying to make you believe that inflation has been relatively stable since 1970, but it hasn't been. It's been worse, the orders of magnitude worse than the reporting. And the other fucked up part about this is like they'll use CPI, like, oh, CPI says this, so we're gonna manipulate all these other policies accordingly. And so they're manipulating the economy off of bunk data, and it just creates all these bad externalities.
Yeah, they'll say right now CPI is what, like 4% or something like that.
Yeah.
That inflation's 4%. It's like, dude, no, it's not.
like 12.
It's like 12. It's 3x
I mean, it
what you're
can't be
saying.
just from the money that was printed.
Yeah,
Like, there's
No, it's
no way
insane.
that math can add up.
You know, Marty had this guy on one something called the Chapwood Index, and it's this guy out of Plano, Texas, who was just furious about this, and he started surveying people in this like 500 cities around
500 cities. He basically sends out this Facebook survey, like go to this store and crowdsources the price of goods month on month, and then calculates what the actual inflation.
What's a gallon of
is.
milk? What's a gallon of
Yeah,
gas?
yeah.
What's a starter home?
That was a great Joe Scarborough. He didn't know how much butter was.
yeah. I mean, within like you could have
Not
told him
even
it was
close to
10x, and he was like, I don't know, like, is it $40? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Potentially killed someone.
But like he tracks this, and like right now he would say like in Austin, Texas, like inflation's about 12%.
That's serious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back
And
to
money is the most important tool we use as humans. That's the fucked up part about all of this.
It coordinates all activity.
Yeah.
Like,
I think
we
it,
do.
honestly, I think it has, it's like a psych med, dude, because when you don't have it, brother,
Yes.
it is
losing it.
depression city.
Yeah.
And like the anxiety and then the spin outs you can have of like, it's the worst thing.
But what if you were like a good boy? You know,
I
you
am a
work
good boy.
hard. You're a good boy.
Yeah.
You save 10% of your money every year, right? You put it in the bank. It's safe there, right? You build it up. You build it up. You build it up, right? It's 2012, right?
Yeah.
You're like, if I do this for 7 years, I can buy a house. You know, it's like I have the down payment for a
what I
house.
do in my-
It's gonna feel
yeah.
good. And then you do it for 7 years, and you look up, and houses have doubled. And you're like, well, now I can't buy a house. I do it for 7 years more. Houses
buy a
have doubled
noose.
again.
Yeah.
Right? I can't do anything. You can't get out of the fucking race.
I could never even save.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
And now people are like, what are you doing with your money? I'm like, I just put it in my bank. And they're like,
Yeah, they're like, no, you're supposed to bet on the stock market. You're supposed
So
to take
dumb.
unimaginable
You are
risks
so dumb.
that you don't understand.
that's the thing. On top of the fact that like you are toast, you're a hamster on a wheel. Yo, money's blah blah. You don't understand it. Then they're like, they laugh at you. Like Kamala Harris was like laughing about it's Bidenomics.
Yeah.
And you're like, dude, what?
It's demonic.
Well,
Yeah.
and that's the other fucked up thing about Bidenomics.
No one knows what's going on, lady.
The Bidenomics, particularly around the CPI, they're like inflation's falling, and these people are literally criminal the way they market things to people. Like for the last year, they're saying inflation's falling, CPI is falling, trying to make people believe that prices are falling, but it's not. CPI measures the rate of inflation, the rate of prices going up.
So the rate is falling.
So it's positive. The rate at which they're
It's going
increasing
up,
is
but just
going
slower
down.
than it
This
was
is just how to
before.
lie
Yeah.
with statistics or lie
Yeah.
with words.
That's the shit that
Yeah.
pissed me off with Biden created the most jobs ever. It's like, dude, everyone was at home.
Oh, yeah.
And you
Yeah.
keep on saying this on debates and shit, and it pisses me off
they've-
so bad.
They've normalized Americans having more than one job, more than almost more than one full time job.
It's fucked up,
Yeah.
dude. Like,
Because there was a time when I was painting where I was thinking, man, if I could Uber too, But this was before Uber. I almost got my taxi license because I wanted to make more money at night. I was only making I was maxing out at like $250 a day, and people be like, "Oh, you're dumb. You don't know what you're doing." But it's like, dude, I'm just painting houses. What do you want from me? Like,
houses need to get painted.
I can only go as fast as I can go. I hire people. I try to teach them. Then they leave. And I got to start all over with another dude.
Then you're supposed to start a family, but your wife has to work 4 days a week.
Well, dude, if you're painting houses, you're not getting any girls. So.
Yeah. Well, no wife of mine's working. So.
No, but you should be able to. That's the way the world should. You should be able to work a job of integrity, that you enjoy, that helps out the economy, and actually put food on the table and build a family. The money has forced everybody into the workforce. We were told this lie as millennials: go to high school, get good grades, get to a good college, and you'll get a good degree, you'll get paid more. That didn't happen. What also happened is they fed us that lie, and then by the time we went to college, the government told the universities, we will give all these motherfuckers loans. Yeah. And so,
dude,
free loans. Anybody can come to us. Don't care what your GPA is. Don't care what school you're going to. We will give you a loan to go to college. And so the universities were like, the government's just going to give these people money, ran the price of an education up, diluted the quality of the actual education. So you have a bunch of indebted people who are essentially retarded, who can't make any money.
Yeah. So you guys, you remember the happenings of this. I didn't know what was going on. So I was painting churches. Mm-hmm. So I'm painting pretty intricate angels and stuff and stenciling, gold leafing. And then in Philadelphia, there was a school, Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Art, where it's they had a certificate program where it was you would learn the old ways. And it was $8,000. Right? And this was 2006 I signed up. Yeah. I had to leave in 2008 because this happened, and they raised tuition to $22,000 a year. And the guidance counselor lady was like, you should just paint houses. This is going to go up more. Yeah. And it was all because of these loans. They changed their entire structure of the school. It was more of a trade school. Yeah. And then they changed it to have a college education so they could just take 18-year-olds' money. Yeah. They built an entire
guaranteed debt. You can't even get out from under it. And of course, you know,
and it's guaranteed flow for the universities. So the government's literally just going to print money and give it to these kids. So we're going to raise our prices.
I just saw this today. It was there are more admins in schools now than there are teachers. It's what is the business of a school now? There's fewer teachers than there are admins.
I had to take African American studies as my first class, brother.
Hey, that'll get you some bank.
We called it multiculturalism at the time.
I actually thought it would probably get you the best job ever now.
Yeah, brought up Pangea and how I was African American, and the chick was wearing dashiki and hated that shit. And I was like, all right, maybe this isn't the place for me.
The Schuylkill River was in Pangea, so you are right.
One of the oldest rivers, you know that?
It's the oldest river. Yeah. No, the Susquehanna.
Susquehanna. I'm sorry. Yeah. One of the oldest rivers ever. Think about that. That's powerful shit.
And that's actually one thing we need to do better in this industry is we're so fucking ingrained. I take all of what we've been discussing for the last almost 2 hours for I'm I just assume everybody knows this, but
we don't know any of this.
I know, fuck all.
This hurts. It hurts people. I think that's why people get mad.
Yeah.
I used to get mad.
You've been lied to your whole life.
You've been lied to your whole life. All the money you think you have is fake. They can make it whatever they want. They can make it worth whatever they want. Yeah. At the click of a button.
And it's weird from the...
And they give it out to their buddies first.
Yeah. From a conspiracy angle to and I can kind of see where people get tripped up because just not knowing who the dude is, it would freak me out just from being weirded out by everything else that's going on. But it kind of makes sense. Everything that you hate is money. All the dudes you hate, all the institutions. And it's this might be someone that's telling the truth and a good thing.
Well, and it depoliticizes it, right? If no one knows who he is, it's it could be Jamin Diamond. It could be any. It's it takes the conversation to that person, right? And I can look at the software and I can look at the businesses that are going out of it, right? I can look at the consensus mechanisms and all that and just say it doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter. I don't know who invented sailboats. It doesn't fucking matter who invented sailboats.
That's a really good one.
They rule.
It's like the 95 Thesis. I know we're good Catholics in this room, but
Lutheran here.
It's what Martin Luther did. He basically was the church is lying to you. These indulgences are bullshit.
Yeah.
The printing press exists now. I'm going to print the Bible and let you know what it actually says.
It's a Gutenberg revolution.
Yeah. Similar to Bitcoin, it's you can literally audit the code if you're skeptical about whether it's CIA backdoored spyware. Like
I don't think they could pull this off, honestly.
No.
I don't think they had the
They're too
incentive
busy
back in
faking.
2008,
Like you
2009.
can verify for yourself that Bitcoin works the way it's supposed to. You don't need to trust the
Thousands of
high
programmers have
priest
looked at this.
Yeah.
People have been trying to hack it forever. There's a $2 trillion bounty
Yeah.
for breaking the encryption.
$2 trillion.
That's what Bitcoin is
Bitcoin
now.
market cap is. If you
$2
can hack
trillion.
Bitcoin,
Who's hanging that out there?
No, you can
I'm
hack
just saying,
it.
if you can hack it,
Oh, yeah,
you can start
yeah.
stealing Bitcoin.
True.
You know, it's like, but no one's been able to do it, right? And there's no back doors, you know, and all that, you know, crazy stuff. There's thousands of people that have touched this code base and worked on it and vetted it and stuff like that. So I feel like the credit, again, things could go wrong. You know, you have to be really careful. You don't want to change a lot of stuff when you have something that's working like this.
Yeah.
But it's like, again, every day that passes, Bitcoin's more and more credible because it hasn't broken.
Yeah.
Well, I like when like you were saying we were told a lie, you know, but like we need a story. Like people needed like a story to tell themselves, like I'm doing this and then I'm going to do this. Like you were saying, like save the money, then you get your house. But like if you can have like a kind of like a white pill story of like we have Bitcoin now, like things are going to get better.
Yeah.
We're going to hit prosperity.
Yeah.
It's going to be like the 1890s.
And
like
Dude, the American dream was a great white pill.
yeah,
It's beautiful.
we need a new one.
Yeah.
We're fucked.
and that's
after.
what like that's the beauty of Bitcoin being 16 years old now. Like we have plenty. Like what has happened for me individually will work collectively for everybody else if everybody adopts Bitcoin. I truly believe that. Like, and I was a poor college student when I first got into Bitcoin. Scraped as much of my paycheck at the restaurants and the fun I eventually worked at to throw it into Bitcoin. Saved it for, so I got Bitcoin 2013, saved it for 3 years. And then I was telling you guys on Sunday, I quit my job, was unemployed for 2 years almost. Damn. And luckily I had saved that money in Bitcoin.
Good thing you didn't bail on Bitcoin, dude.
And I was able to sustain. I mean, I sold more Bitcoin than I'd puke thinking about how much Bitcoin I had to sell to live. But like, I had that savings vehicle, and it actually helped me through a rough time of going through unemployment. And having that backdrop allowed me to take the time to think about what do I actually want to do. Started this media company, and slowly but surely started getting paid again. Started stacking more Bitcoin. I think that'll happen again. Not that I'll be unemployed, but I'll benefit from Bitcoin going up. And that's happened for me. I'm sure it's happened for Will. Anybody who's adopted Bitcoin at any point in time and held it for a long period of time has benefited from that. And that is going to be true for anybody who adopts Bitcoin. And then collectively, each individual doing that will add to a collective society that has that stability. And then you can not have the anxiety of worrying about money problems.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if you don't like hearing it, maybe you got to eat your vegetables. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, it sucks, dude.
Yeah.
It sucks.
It
Sucks to be
it's
lied
scary.
to.
It's scary to lose your money. To look at my money and be like, dude, make that all Bitcoin, terrifying.
Yeah, it is.
You know what I mean?
Because
It's like jumping.
It's like a double-edged sword. It's equal parts scary, and sometimes sounds too good to be true. And that's like
big time,
when it
dude.
comes from like TradFi looking down on Bitcoiners, like
What the hell is that?
they're
Traditional
finance.
finance.
Like
Okay.
people that's the other, like you have this yuppie elite that think they know better. They've gotten their master's
those guys.
degrees.
Dude, they missed out on Bitcoin
They
completely.
work in high finance. They think they know how the world
They
works.
made fun of us for
Yeah.
years.
This is great.
And they
And then
like,
we would
sit
just
there and
tweet
get,
at
like,
them. We would
yelled
just
at
tweet at
by
them and be like,
robots.
oh, you got 7% last year? Yeah, we got like
I used to have to
1,000.
paint like
Sorry.
frat houses at Penn, and they were like gambling 10 grand on like football games, and they were like 18. Yeah. And there was years where I made like $19,000, like trying to have my own business. Be like, oh, nobody wants to hire me this week.
Yeah. I guess there's no money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but it almost like to those people, it's like, it's too good to be true. You can't just buy this thing and the value is going to go up. But it's like, that is what money should like.
That's what should happen with money.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if you keep money in a bank account, it shouldn't go down. It should at least stay where
My
it is.
dad used to tell me they got
very least
7% in the
stay.
savings account.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, my mom showed me how to balance a checkbook. My dad showed me when he paid off his mortgage.
Yep.
He was doing double payments. This was the 90s. My dad started out pumping gas. When I was like, when I got adopted, he was pumping gas, and my mom was she used to be a secretary. So all she did was type, and my dad knew about cars vaguely, not even like a full mechanic.
Yeah.
Pumped gas at a mechanic's place.
Yeah.
And had a family.
Paid off a house.
That's impossible now.
It is.
Paid off a house before I was done high school.
Yeah. Now BlackRock owns all the houses. Yeah. But they couldn't only because there's easy money. They
Right.
borrow all the money to do that, right? It's like, I know it sounds like, self-referential or self-serving here. It's like, the money is at the root of most of these problems, right? When you have easy money, like I was talking to my good friend Parker about this, which is like, you couldn't build a skyscraper on sound money, right? A 70-story building in Austin. Yeah. It's like, because first of all, unless you had it 100% leased beforehand, who's going to give you gold to like build a speculative, thing? Like skyscrapers are kind of bullshit. Actually, they shouldn't exist. It's like they only exist because we have this easy money. There's tons of things that shouldn't exist because of easy money.
Well, you can see things that were built on sound money. Like they're the things that matter the most. Like those cathedrals and shit weren't built off fiat. Like they made masterpieces, and you can see like
and they took 100 years to build.
Yeah.
And like,
well, I saw that when the economy goes down anywhere, you see the cranes just stay up.
Yeah,
because because they're sitting there waiting to be like, dude, if we take this thing down, it's going to cost that much more to get it back up.
Yeah,
like that happened in Ireland with the Celtic Tiger thing. Like, there's people getting these like weird, they borrow too much.
Yeah.
Like I knew people in Ireland that were like, they were giving out money and they were getting second homes in Spain and stuff. And this is like, these people are working class. And then the bottom fell out and they were fried.
Yeah.
And it feels like that's like a culling that they just kind of do when shit gets too good for everyone, where it's like, make it real lendable, trap them, and then just take it all back from them.
Sure.
And you can't do that with Bitcoin.
I mean, I don't think that's the intention is that that's not the intention, I would say. The mechanics of that are, since it's a debt-based system, like they literally need to flood the market with more money, like the bailouts. Like, we had one in 2008, we had one in COVID, there was one last year. Like, so the liquidity in the system is having these dry ups like every few years now, and that's why they're flooding the market with money, and that's why the Irish can get those cheap loans and go do whatever they want. It's because like the system, the way it's set up, and the interest that we owe on the debt, like they have to try and solve that problem by printing more money.
Are they going to do it again?
So that's just like an externality of them trying to fix the Frankenstein that they've.
What we call that is monetizing the debt, which is like you don't pay down the debt by being more productive and taxing people and stuff like that. You just print the dollars, right, to pay down the debt, and that's like a hugely destructive like cycle to get into.
You're killing the dollar.
Yeah, because like the premise of our debt is like future generations are going to be thankful for what we built, and they're going to pay it down for us, right? We're going to give them a better tomorrow because we invested all this money that they're going to have to pay down, right? It's like, and at a certain point, that kind of sounds true. It's like, I'm glad Thomas Jefferson bought Louisiana. It's like, I'm pretty happy.
Like, Alaska, mega buy.
Mega buy, right? It's like, we'll pay down that debt, right? And I think that future generations have a idea of what's worth paying down and what their previous generations did for them. We have $37 trillion of debt
I can't
that is
understand
going
what that is.
to nonsense. It's like,
you really can't even fathom.
I can't.
It's like,
y'all met our kids. Like, they are not going to pay down that debt. They're not going to be thankful for that.
Not even close.
Yeah. It's so like, what's the option? The only other option is to monetize it, is to print the money. And then you destroy your currency.
But for people all freaked out about investing in Bitcoin now because like, oh, it's so fucking high. You were kind of saying that like, dude, it's the same as if you got into $7,000 onto where it's projected to go. Like, it's not that bad to get Bitcoin right now due to the fact that like it's still going up.
It will always be better to get. So it's like it would be akin to saying like, do you think it's a good time to adopt the wheel? Do you think it's a good time to adopt fire?
Like,
do you think it's a good time to adopt the internet? It is literally just.
You're not going to win like on a shit coin when it like skyrockets.
Better monetary technology. You always want to adopt it. Yes, obviously, preferably you would have adopted it 10 years later or earlier, excuse me, and that would have been awesome for you. But there's no bad time to adopt Bitcoin. And if you're someone there and you have like maybe you're living paycheck to paycheck, maybe you have some money for savings, you don't have to ape in. If you have a lump sum that you want to ape in,
like $20 at a time.
Yeah, like that's how I started. I bought $25 a paycheck, like back in 20.
That's how that stimulus check thing fucks me up. The people who put it in Bitcoin,
went straight in.
Why did I even get one? I was like totally fine. I got one. I was like, okay, Bitcoin. Yeah, here we go. But like, I don't want to paint like an unrealistic picture, right? It's like Bitcoin's, right now it's speculative. People are buying it to try to like get more dollars in some cases. A lot of people are they're never selling their Bitcoin. They're just like, this is what I save in, right? Is it like in the future, it's not like Bitcoin solves poverty, right? But what it does solve is that if you do productive things and you get paid for it, right, that doesn't disappear. And sure, if you have some left over at the end of the day, you can go invest it. If your buddy's making a restaurant or something like that, but like, if you could save your money, you can calculate future economic activity. You can decide, I'm going to save this money, buy a house. I'm going to save this money, start a business. I'm going to save this money and invest in someone else's business, right? You can like calculate trade that you want to do. When you have inflation, at 12, 14, 15%, is like the number one thing you have to do when you get dollars is to get rid of it as fast as you can.
Yeah.
You cannot hold on to
We're,
it.
we're not quite at that stage yet, but like you see stories of Argentina, Venezuela. Like I've had a lot of these people,
Germany.
Zimbabwe, on my podcast, and they went through multiple hyperinflationary events in the last 2 decades. And like the common story was like when you got paid, you fucking ran to the grocery store and bought as much shit as you could because they would literally change the prices like 3 times a day.
I was cleaning out a
It's
house.
not happening here in the U.S., but the trajectory we're on, it will get to that point at some
Well, I
point.
had friends that were building industrial warehouses and stuff like that during the COVID bailouts and everything when they print $5 trillion. The problem is that he had a fund. Basically, he gets investors to come in and say like, okay, we have this deal in Oklahoma City, right? So he spends a few months like raising the money, and then they go out and they build it, and then they get a tenant for it, and they pay out that to them. Okay, it's like typical real estate investment deal. In that 3-month period, he had to go back to his investors like 3 times about, hey, do you want your money back? Because our biggest input is steel, right? And steel's up 30%.
Yeah.
And then he had to call him back. It's like,
the whole thing's
steel's up
fried,
another
yeah.
20. You cannot calculate future economic activity when
Right.
you're printing money this way.
That's the pain, dude.
Then you stop building altogether.
White pills, though.
Yeah, we're thinking Bitcoin.
Yeah, we're
Big
thinking
old
white
Bitcoin.
pills. Here
No
we
more
go, here we
dollars.
go.
No more talking
Well, it
dollars.
is like regular dollars. Like they're used as some sort of censorship tool because you start saying the wrong shit on the internet.
Yeah.
Like it's immediately bank account can get seized. You can go into bad boy jail.
Yeah, I mean, we've been focused on Bitcoin, the asset, and that's the other beauty of it. Is the other side is the peer-to-peer network where they
Yeah.
can't.
No IRS.
I mean, the IRS still exists,
Oh,
Fuck
it still exists. Okay.
Yeah.
but I mean,
Let's end it.
we should end the IRS.
Put that in
We
the
can
rules.
demonetize the
Yeah,
IRS.
yeah.
Put that in the
basically.
rules, please.
Yeah, but
Pitch
no,
that.
yeah, censorship. Like you can't stop Bitcoin payment. WikiLeaks. So WikiLeaks is an integral part of Bitcoin's story. When PayPal cut them off from their donation page, PayPal did not like what WikiLeaks was doing, shut down their account, froze their money. Julian Assange, Satoshi was still around back then. It was like a big thing in that it was 2011, 2012. Satoshi was actually worried because he didn't want all that attention on Bitcoin.
He wasn't sure the network was ready for it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Man, it's
Julian
gotta be so
Assange,
crazy. He's like
WikiLeaks,
Professor X, dude.
like this is the first use case of Bitcoin as censorship resistant money. It was like WikiLeaks was like, PayPal, all the banks cut us off. We're only accepting Bitcoin. And WikiLeaks raised a fuck ton of Bitcoin and still has that today. Like,
Whoa.
and nobody could stop them. Like they're literally,
So WikiLeaks
They're
is
really-
unstoppable right now.
yeah, they are laying bare war crimes by the strongest military force that's ever existed on this planet. And there's nothing
And they
that
can't
they could
touch
do
them.
to stop
Yeah.
them from accepting money.
Dude, that's sick.
I mean, like, to your point, though, is that, like, I feel like, I have a lot of just normal guys. They work in banks, they work in whatever, right? And, but they've have even the slightest right wing, like, tendency to them politically or something like that. I try to impress upon them, like, how dangerously close we are to, like, normal, everyday people, like, going to jail, being cut off from your bank
It's
account.
happening in the UK now.
Like ruining your in the UK
Yeah,
right
getting
now is like
unbanked and stuff.
we had this breakthrough in the United States. We got Trump,
if
we
an
got
immigrant
Musk.
murders somebody in your town, you're not allowed to speak up against it. It's like,
Dude, they knock on your door for Facebook posts.
yeah.
Like it's nonsense. It is terrifying. Like I joke about it, but it's like
It almost came
ruining
here
their
too.
lives.
Remember, like the Ministry of Truth? They literally called it the Ministry of Truth. They wanted to spin
Yeah.
up.
That freaked me out.
Yeah,
I
Mike
thought that
Pence
was a
stuff.
joke.
And we were talking about, like, I got demonetized and deplatformed for YouTube a couple times, like talking about COVID shit. Like,
Never fucked with Susan, bro.
rest in peace.
The whole time. Rest in piss, bitch. I hate her. YouTube can't do shit about it now. What a good person to die. Molly wishes she should come
Relax,
back to
man.
life so she could die again.
Relax.
Fucking cunt.
Relax.
I really hate it. Like that shit was so
it was
insane.
terrible. It was
You
terrible.
couldn't say a word, and now people
Yeah.
like
You couldn't, like-
myocarditis is like skyrocketing,
and they
it's like,
pretend it never happened.
No, that's the thing. She died from turbo cancer. It's
Yeah.
like, holy shit. Maybe you should have
Never
listened
even
to us
heard of
and
this shit
deplatformed
before.
us. Like,
I hate her so much.
no, but it isn't. Like, think about how close to pure dystopia, I mean, we got in America during COVID. Like, you couldn't,
Yeah, dude.
you couldn't explore like anything.
It was like, my whole life, they'd be like, oh, 1984, it's a dystopian. And you're like, all right, cool. And then all that stuff became true.
It's like it was like a manual.
Yeah.
It was as if they were like, "Hey, let's just do
like,
that."
this is
like,
new
we're not creative, but let's just do that instead.
That is anyone who's satanic or driven by a satanic force. They hate you because you're creative, and they can't do it. So they just imitate. It's the same stuff with the altcoins. They're Satanists.
Mm-hmm.
Well, my new thing,
demonic.
My new thing is that I think that they're scared inherently because of the way that they're built and what they've done with themselves, and then they want you to be scared. Mm-hmm. And they want to spread that around.
Are you watching the humiliation?
Sorry.
Go for it.
I was gonna say that's another like people call Bitcoin "fuck you" money because it's like one way they'll try to scare you is like we'll shut down your fucking bank account. It's like no, fuck you. I have Bitcoin in my own wallet. Like,
I was thinking when you were talking that working my fucking job was a humiliation ritual. If they can just play with money like that,
it is.
Yeah.
Like it takes all integrity.
I'm like a Roman slave.
Yeah.
You're a debt slave. Like you live in a debt slave
and there's
society.
nothing you can do about it. That's the humiliation part, right? It's like they decide they want to print money. You saved up $20,000. Like, fuck you. You can't do anything about it. It's like vote. Yeah, good luck. Let's vote our way out of this. Although I will say that like, the humiliation that like Trudeau's going through right now. I mean, he's having to like ride over to Mar-a-Lago, get joked at by Trump saying, I'm going to make you a state and everything.
Right.
Like, but what was he doing 3 years ago? He was ruining the lives of people who were driving tractors to protest vaccine mandates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like they deserve it 100%.
On top of the fact that they laugh and say AI is going to take your job. We're going to have automated semis.
Yeah.
Hey man.
Yeah.
Like how are you supposed to dream of the future?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that like the white pill, I mean, like, I think it answers like a lot of our concerns about the future. Is just like, if you take away their ability to humiliate us with money printing, right? There's other things they can do, but like a lot of the tools they have disappear, right? It's like so much of it is like connected to the fact that not only can they print money, but they can distribute it to whoever they want to, right? They control those people now because now those people are addicts, addicted to the money spigot, right? They can pay militaries, they can pay, all this type of stuff.
Maybe we could do a thing where it's like all the payments to Congress people get put on a ledger. You know what I mean?
Wouldn't be too bad.
That's been
like
proposed
keep ledger
before.
space for that or something.
Yeah, or just like get rid of the government. Like we just need
relax.
Like we just need the government.
They're gonna shut you down.
We just need the government to run the courts, enforce the law, and just get the fuck out of it.
We go to like pre-Bill of Rights Constitution.
Yeah,
there we go.
It's real 1776.
You're talking about the we the people
money.
America.
Yes.
Oh yeah, it is. Like the founding fathers would fucking love Bitcoin
because they love fucking with shit. Like no matter what happens, they always find some sort of loophole to make it like convenient for them to have money. And like, dude, like just for a normal person to get money at this point, like you're saying, it's like Social Security, bank statement. What the fuck are you buying? Like, oh, you're on like whatever. Like we're not gonna lend to you. Like it's impossible.
Yeah, and social. I mean, that's you threw out the number $37 trillion of debt. The real amount of debt is $260 trillion because they don't count Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid
obligations they have.
Obligation that it's $220 trillion they owe for those.
That was a pretty good psyop.
People are not going to get their Social Security.
They ran that psyop on us. They normalized that. They told us they're like, you're not going to get your Social Security.
Functionally bankrupt.
Invest in Vanguard. They told me that since I was a kid. They were like, dude, you're not going to get your Social Security. Keep your under the table job and just invest your money in like a mutual fund.
Yeah, we're not going to.
That'll be your or get a what was the other one? 401ks.
Or join some sort of union that's going to do pensions or
like buy these CDs and then cash them out and all these tricks.
But these pensions are unfunded too. You know, it's like it's not just the government. It's like these organizations with these like long-standing obligations that are denominated in dollars, right? And you pay in a little bit. It's like in the dollar inflates. It's like they can't offer you any standard of living in retirement with the inflation going the way it is. It's like it's impossible.
Right?
They'd have to.
It doesn't keep up.
Yeah. It's like it's impossible.
It's a Ponzi scheme. It's literally a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, Social Security is actually the
like the whole
of a Ponzi
dollar
scheme.
The whole dollar like bank. It's all a Ponzi.
Yeah.
Like they literally need to either create greater fools who invest in it or just print more money.
Yeah, that shit's
to throw into it.
We should just wash our hands of all this stuff and start over with Bitcoin.
It's happening.
That's what we're doing.
It's happening.
I mean, this place, Bitcoin Commons, Austin, Texas, Bitcoin center of the world. It's like,
is it
this is
really?
all we do. Yeah. That's all we do.
Holy shit.
They got another great place, you know, in Nashville, Bitcoin Park. There's a lot of these communities in these
One in
cities.
Denver now.
One in Denver now. Like, and of course, you know, it doesn't take these places to do it, but it's like good for education. We do all these events and stuff, and like if we can find people like you that like are curious about this and like want to walk in and like see some people that have been doing this for 10 years, it's like it's helpful.
And it's happened. Like it is happening. Bitcoin adoption is increasing. It's reflected in the price. Like there are people.
Trump talks about it every day.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And that's like the one thing I would recognize. Like whether you're like it's happening, you can accept that and get on board and enjoy the benefits of number go up technology and the defunding of the satanic state, or you can sit on the side. If you're one of those people who's seen it go up and you're like butthurt because you didn't get in, just eat crow, eat your ego.
Yeah.
Do not let. That's the other thing that is weird to see is like people get really envious of people who bought Bitcoin earlier. As well.
I mean, I heard they're living in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these guys sold a bunch of their Bitcoin. It's not like these guys that mined 100,000 Bitcoin are sitting on 100,000 Bitcoin. It's like, it was risky when it went up to $200 in 2011. They sold a bunch of it. You know, they got scared. It's like we didn't have the same mindset back then. You know, when I was getting into Bitcoin, the mindset was not like get as much as you can. You know?
Right.
It was like, hey, this is interesting. I'm going to play with it. I'm going to like try to learn about it a little bit, get a little bit for myself. I wasn't really thinking about my net worth in Bitcoin. It was such a baby little thing. You know, that starts changing in the teens, you know, like, you know, 15, 16,
Once
17.
you start getting blessed with it.
Yeah. And you start getting like, I mean, my kids only knew the gamble I made with their future, like the irresponsible, like gambling I did. But at the same time, it's like for the people getting in now, it's like the number one thing you're guarding yourself against is that the dollar you put under your mattress tomorrow, you know, is going to be worth 30% less. It's like Bitcoin is for the savings right now, a really good way to avoid that.
That only makes it stronger.
Yeah.
If everyone starts investing in it. I mean, it makes sense to me. I can't wrap my head around the anger shit. Besides, like, saying your money's safe, but who the fuck doesn't know that?
You gonna stop being a pre-coiner or what?
I mean, I got to figure out how the fuck to buy the shit. That's right. I
got you.
I'm still
just download Strike, River, Cash App, buy it there.
People that only deal with Bitcoin, Cash App, River, Strike. Yeah, I mean, these places
Citadel.
These places are great.
Ken Griffin, fuck him.
Citadel?
What's he? Robin Hood?
Yeah, Kangaroo.
Oh yeah, don't do it.
Oh, yeah.
He's a bad dude, right? All that shit.
They have all these weird restrictions on it. Yeah. It's just like find one of these Bitcoin exchanges, do a little bit, you know, when it starts scaring you how much you have on there, then you take self-custody over it.
You know, when Trump, if Trump talks about it a lot and things go good and it's all like prosperity and stuff, the next president's going to have to be like a Bitcoin president.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And then
Vance was on this early
that'll
too.
keep going,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, I mean, the ultimate goal is to get it like where you don't have the concept of a Bitcoiner. It's like Bitcoin is money, and everybody is
just like a moneyer.
Bitcoiner. Yeah.
I'm a computer president. I believe in computers.
Right.
But that's like Satoshi designed this incredible incentive system where he found a way to weaponize greed, and it works in the benefit of everybody. Like Bitcoin, like Michael Goldstein has the famous meme from years ago. The only winning move is to play. Like it's like the opposite of nuclear game theory, where like the only winning move is not to play the game. In Bitcoin, it's the only winning move is to play, and everybody wins if you play. Which
everybody wins is nice, dude.
Yeah. Dude, I think about guys in your line of business and like your brother's line of business. It's like, you are always on the freaking edge of just like pissing someone off in some organization or some platform.
Pussies, man.
It's just going to say like, you don't get any more money anymore.
Yeah. It takes one dude to get pissed off or notice, and then they could fuck your whole world up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I could see how it would be dangerous for like the powers that shouldn't be, because like if you can say whatever the fuck you want, they'd be done in a few months, bro.
Yeah.
Like, if you could really fucking say what the fuck's on your mind, they would be fucking cooked. And no one would even fuck with them just because they're that weird. But like they use money to like just kind of chill everyone out. It's like, don't go too crazy. It's like the same thing as going to school every day. Like keep your head down, just do all this stuff. Don't bother anyone.
Yeah.
Bitcoin,
invest in stuff you don't understand.
Is that the bit right now?
yeah.
Yo.
6,000?
What?
So that's everyone. Our Patreon with the last Bitcoin guy, shout out to Joe, 25,000. Everyone that was like, fuck you guys, you're assholes, it's a scam. I literally didn't buy any.
Well, everyone tells me it's a scam. And
I
like,
look
if
at this
talk
and
to-
just get pumped up.
I taught my cousin's a TradFi guy. He was like, it's a scam.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what am I going to do?
I love prosperity though. So like even when I don't win on Bitcoin, as long as I know some of my boys won, it's like, all right, that's sick with me.
Yeah.
I'll get in on the next round. I don't
gonna
have to
get-
be poopy pants about it.
If you become a Bitcoiner, you'll get tired of winning.
Oh,
You're gonna
fuck
win
it.
so much.
Just like Trump said.
No, I would stress. I mean, winning is awesome, but like I was radicalized in a way. Like I fucking hate the system, the way it works. Like these.
No, I can see it. Yeah.
Like here's how insane it is. When I was working at the hedge fund, we it's called a managed futures fund, and we would index commodity trading advisors. So we were a fund of funds. We would index funds. We would take in money, then we'd invest in funds, index that, and then hopefully get a return and return it to investors. And they traded currency markets. And so part of my job as an analyst was to cover these central bank press conferences when they would make an announcement about monetary policy. And I'll never forget in 2012 or 2013, Janet Yellen, it was like post QE1 Operation Twist, and they're about to inject more money into the economy. And she was making a statement about it. And she was wearing a purple pantsuit. And after the press conference, I went to check the tape to see what all the analysts were saying. And markets were literally trading off the fact that she was wearing a purple pantsuit because it expressed that she was feeling regal and powerful and confident.
Oh my god.
like a
so,
Roman
like,
toga.
When you think about it, money is the most important tool that we use as humans. And the reference rate for the most important money in the world, the US dollar, was being traded because of the pantsuit that this little
We're seeing
70-year-old
omens, man.
woman.
Yeah.
Like that is how fucked up and crazy our world
That
is.
and everybody that's on the Fed board looks like they work at Gringotts.
Not to be trusted. Yeah, that's what, like I saw that thing about the you tweeted out yesterday about the chick from like Desperate House or Real Housewives
Yeah.
is tweeting out like, I have insider information at the Pentagon. It's like, this shit is a psyop. Like they're just tricking you with this. It's
Although
insane.
it could be like a Soviet thing where like they just told the truth. You know?
Yeah.
Instead, it's like we're just gonna pick the lady from Real Housewives. She's our vessel.
Yeah, it's that hyper normalization.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have her tell the truth, and it's gonna be the funniest thing ever.
No, it's a psyop.
Of course, yeah.
They got my wife all. We're about to go up to Philly for Christmas. She's like, "Should we go? Is there a dirty bomb up there?" I'm like, "No."
Dude, I don't. If there is, dude, I hope it blows up underneath of me so I can get out of whatever the fuck this is.
No, because you're gonna be a Bitcoiner. And you're gonna want the world to go on.
I know. I'm saying if it
That's a
doesn't,
non-coiner's mind.
strap a
That
dirty
is
bomb
a
in me.
pre-coiner, no coiner mind right there. Right?
Yeah, that's what. Once I get involved in this, I will be. I'll probably be even happier than I am right now, which is
It just get you like social media. You look at all the likes and all that stuff. Imagine if there was another app where you just go, "Oh, it's going up again. Sick. Everything's good."
I have to. I mean, last time I didn't do it. That's how big I lost.
I mean,
Yeah, what if
the
it
real
goes
way to do
down
it is
again?
just buy and don't look at it for like 4 years.
Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
And then you're just like, what the hell?
I like the concept of it. If I would be way more into it if it wasn't going through these like speculation spikes.
Yeah, I mean,
know?
I think it's unavoidable. I don't know how you would monetize an asset without it.
Yeah, right.
Logan, can you pull up the chart of gold price volatility in the Weimar Republic? So this is like a good analog to what we're going through right
We
now.
don't like to talk about past wars.
But,
I heard a story of this guy. He had so he had like I cleaned out this house and I had all these rights marks and they're huge.
Yeah.
And this dude allegedly had a wheelbarrow full of them. And when he got to the bank, or he wanted to buy bread, and then they were like, "We don't want the money. Give me the wheelbarrow."
Yeah. So this is the black line is the price of gold in German marks during the Weimar Republic, and the red line is the rate of change of the price of gold over that period too. So you can see how like it spikes up and down. So when gold was monetizing, when the Weimar Republic was going through their hyperinflation, it was very similar to what you're seeing in Bitcoin today, where you have these spikes, but ultimately it ends up and to the right pretty significantly.
Okay.
And that's why you don't like, it's like it's savings right now. Like there will be a moment where like Bitcoin is just accepted everywhere, but it's like for now it's like a good savings instrument, right?
Yeah.
Save the dollars that you're not going to spend tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah. Ideally for 4 years. If you've ever held Bitcoin for more than 4 years, you've never lost money.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
So if I don't geek and just hold it and don't look at it.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the idea.
I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
past performance is not indicative of future results, but I'm pretty confident that
I hear you. I hear
adoption's going to.
What if you got like buy a crib or something like that? Would it be smart to put it in that, or just keep on holding and use fiat on houses.
I mean, well, that's like so.
It makes me not want to buy another house.
Well,
really.
to your point, like one of the companies we're invested in, they just did their first deal, but now, like I think we're heading into the stage of Bitcoin's adoption where, yes, many TradFi people don't like it, but some that are smart and forward thinking are recognizing that holy shit, this asset is really good collateral. And so what you're seeing, this company Battery Finance, based in Philly, actually, they just refinanced a big building on Bank Street down in Center City. And what they did is they gave them, they had $11 million mortgage that they wanted to refi. So they gave them $11 million to pay that off. They wanted to do $2 million in repairs and upgrades. So they gave them $2 million to do that. And then they gave them another $1.5 million on top of all that. So collectively $14.5 million. And that 1.5 was used to buy Bitcoin. And Battery,
That's backing the building.
it's backing the building. So in this mortgage, this refied mortgage for the building, you have the building as collateral in Bitcoin. And the idea that Battery is taking is a 10-year commercial real estate mortgage. Their bet is like the Bitcoin in collateral in this mortgage is going to go up over 10 years. And so we feel comfortable actually issuing this loan. We don't know what's going to happen in the commercial real estate market, but we're pretty confident that Bitcoin adoption is going to continue. And so the value of the equity combination of the building and the Bitcoin is going to be pretty high at the end of the
So
loan.
some TradFi people are playing with it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And
I mean,
that-
like at the end of the day, it's like Bitcoin is collateral. It trades 24/7, right? It's a deeply liquid market. It's like, what would you rather lend someone money for? Like buying Bitcoin that you can like liquidate 24/7, or for like a house in Cincinnati?
Yeah,
It's
they
like-
have to wait to get sold and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
And
like
so-
how hard is that to sell?
To your point, ideally, I don't know if there's an exact product for what I'm looking for. When I go to buy a house in Philly, I'm going to use Bitcoin as collateral. Like I'll put it up and be like,
How do you do that? Just they let you?
There's companies like right down the hall here.
yeah,
they do.
So like for them, if I want to take out a business loan and I need cash and I don't want to sell my Bitcoin, I'll send Bitcoin to a 2 or 3 multi-sig where I hold a key, they hold a key, and a bank or a financial institution holds the other key. I put the Bitcoin in the wallet and they lend me dollars. And as long as I'm paying that loan back, I'm going to get the Bitcoin back at the end of the day. But they,
Oh, so you're gonna get your Bitcoin back and have the house?
yeah,
I mean, you have to pay off the loan.
Yeah.
Right?
Still, it's like a win-win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if Bitcoin goes up in value, there's a lot of people that live this way. It's like, this is the way rich people live, right? It's like, if you're Zuckerberg and you own, 50% of Facebook or whatever, right? You don't sell your shares. You borrow against them, right? So you pledge them as collateral, you get dollars, right? Your share price goes up. And instead of selling, 100,000 shares to pay for your lifestyle, maybe after it goes up after 4 years, you're selling 5,000 shares, And so a lot of people do this with Bitcoin. They're like, well, I think Bitcoin's going to go up forever. So what I do is I borrow dollars against the Bitcoin, say it's $100,000, right now, one Bitcoin, right? So you put up, say, 2 Bitcoin as collateral, you get $100,000, right? And as long as you can pay that off, right, over time, if Bitcoin goes to $300,000 in the future, and you only have to pay down $100,000, right, you're paying off with a third of a Bitcoin instead of selling an entire Bitcoin.
Right.
I mean, that's just like,
It's just like putting a house up as collateral on the house.
it's
exactly.
like a
It's the same thing. It's just like, but people live their lives like this that own public equities. Like this is like a very common way for them to live. Oh, by the way, the dollars that you get in from the loan, tax free. You don't pay taxes on it. So $100,000 is just $100,000 in your bank.
Oh, yeah, true.
There's no taxes on that or anything, right? So like if you have good collateral, like you can live off these loans, which is what people do.
So rich people don't spend money.
Basically, yeah. Or they delay spending money into these like events where they have to pay way less, right?
Right.
If Facebook stock doubles, and it probably will because they're printing more money, they don't even have to do anything different. They just have to do exactly what they're doing now, and they get double the money in the future. Their stock doubles, right? And Zuckerberg and his execs, pledge their shares there, then they're going to sell half the number of their shares that they would have in the first place.
Didn't he try to do a Bitcoin?
They
Libra.
They tried to do like a stable coin thing. It was, it was unfortunate. Like, I mean, I don't like why it got shut down, but it wasn't a particularly interesting project.
Okay.
I don't think.
Yeah.
The government, I don't like when the government, bitch slaps a bunch of these guys. It feels bad, right? Like I'm not rooting against them other than I wish they would stop the affinity scam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. It was a stupid idea,
Yeah. It
but
was
ultimately the government shut it down. Like Operation Choke Point 2.0.
What is that? You were talking about that before.
It was rough.
So, I mean, Operation Choke Point 1.0 was under Obama, and essentially they went to like gun stores, weed stores, back pages for prostitutes, and basically
And
said
it's officially called that.
I mean, colloquially called that by the people who did like research on it. And said you guys can't get bank accounts anymore. That's why like the weed business was all cash for a period of time. I think it still may be.
Some of it.
By the way, perfectly legal businesses. They decided, in the government, we're still going to screw them.
I
over.
painted one of the early like weed dispensaries up in like Fort Washington, and they were moving cash all day long.
Yeah.
They got to
had
hire like security, all
rooms
that
of
shit.
cash.
Choke
They had-
Point, despite the fact that weed was legal, the government was like, they can't get bank accounts.
Right.
So 2.0 is under Elizabeth Warren, under the Biden administration.
$79 book.
They basically targeted our industry. So it was like really hard to get a bank account. And the banks that were offering us services, they essentially just shut down
When was this?
in 2022, 2023. Yeah.
Like very
So they just
recently.
put the squeeze on you guys.
Silicon Valley Bank gone. Silvergate,
that
gone.
stuff?
Silvergate is the only bank in U.S. history. They had a 70%, a run on their bank for 70% of their deposits.
Paid them all out.
Paid them all out. Like Silvergate knew the industry they were getting into, and the fact that a lot of people were taking a lot of risks. They like structured their bank balance sheet. So this is an example of a very good bank that like should be operational. They structured their balance sheet in a way in which they could take on a run on the bank and get everybody their money back.
Yeah.
Which
They
is
withstood
never-
it.
Which is they withstood it, but
They
Elizabeth
still shut it
Warren,
down.
Elizabeth Warren and crew did not like them, like forced them to shut down.
They put them into receivership, new ownership over a weekend.
She's like the bad guy in It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah.
It's like the
But like in It's a Wonderful Life, like he did not have the money. Silvergate
don't
had
talk
the
bad
money.
about her though. She's like 1/1000% chance.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. That's you're talking about someone who you stole land from.
So that's what that's a signal that they're afraid of Bitcoin, which is actually a positive signal for us. Like they know.
Dude, this is crazy.
Well, obviously they
This
would
is
hate
like
this.
Jedi Sith shit. You know what I mean? Like, if it works out, man,
It's working
like,
out.
This is gonna be the shit.
We are going to win. Like,
Yeah.
There's nothing that like I'm supremely confident. In that. Like it's globally like it is like the head of like they could try to shut it down here. They've tried to shut it down in China. They could
tried
shut
so
it down
many
in
different
Russia.
things.
so
Yeah.
Xi
It is a
Jinping's a
fucking
non-coiner?
It is a
I'm pumped that they're shutting
globally
it down.
distributed hydra. Like you cannot kill Bitcoin.
Yeah.
China.
Like if China shuts it down, Americans will earn those coins.
What was it? 60% of global network hash rate, the mining network, was in China
Yeah.
pre-2021.
When they put a ban on it. Yeah.
The spring of 21, China said Bitcoin mining's banned. Everybody get out.
Why?
Because they don't like they're a communist
communists.
country.
Yeah,
they
sure.
don't like
Okay.
Bitcoin. And so everybody had to unplug. So you had 60% of the energy dedicated to the network get unplugged in the course of a month.
What happened to the Bitcoins?
They came to Texas.
And they came to Texas. The blocks slowed down. Remember the difficulty adjustment. So like all that power came off the network. Blocks were coming in at 25 minutes on average instead of the 10-minute target. And then we got to the difficulty adjustment and the network saw like, oh shit, like a lot of hash rate has come off the network. We need to make it easier to mine. And
Were you
then,
howling when that happened?
like I was mining and that like for me as a miner, like if it gets easier to mine Bitcoin because of some
I don't know what this feels like.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, that must be like hitting oil and like there will be blood. You hit
Yeah.
the oil, like,
Oh,
what
yeah.
the
like
fuck?
the revenue and
That's what I keep thinking. Is these
denominated
guys
in
are like
Bitcoin went up significantly.
you guys are like oil miners.
Wildcatters.
Yeah.
Very similar.
Digital,
I mean, like
digital wildcatters.
in. By the way, those industries are mixing now. Like it's the same guys.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like the oil and gas people are becoming Bitcoin miners and vice versa.
Landman.
Yeah.
Because you're making money double.
What's that?
Like if you're going to be getting natural resources, you can also make money getting Bitcoin. So
That's
like,
been my thesis for a long time, is that ultimately Bitcoin miners are power producers.
this
They're
guy-
not going to buy power from other people. They're going to produce it
There's
themselves.
a guy out here, Chris, 360 Energy now. They were 360 Mining. But what he does basically up in Fort Worth, he has access to a natural gas pipeline and he's put a big mining operation next to it. And he basically just looks at the price of Bitcoin, how hard it is to mine, and the price of natural gas. And he decides what's more profitable. Do I sell gas to a utility company to turn into electricity, or do I mine Bitcoin?
At any given time, he can just
And so like
choose
he
where it
can
goes.
say, is it more profitable to sell gas? Like I'm going to sell the gas. Is it more profitable to mine Bitcoin? I'm going to mine Bitcoin. So you get this like optionality of revenue streams like that.
yeah, and that won't like. Will that help with price surging and shit?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. So like when the price surges and it's in retail or industrial uses will pay more for the electricity than the Bitcoin miners. This is what's so great about Bitcoin is like previously you had industrials like aluminum smelters. It's like you can't just like hit a button and turn it off.
Nah.
You know, it takes a while. And there's like these jobs and everything. It's like Bitcoin miners can literally just hit a button and all that energy is now available. So it's like when we had the big freeze in February 2021, everyone likes to make fun of us for it. We're fine. We like our grid.
Yeah.
Right?
Is
Is
like
that
30.
like when stuff like that happens now, it's that like we've brought gigawatts of energy onto the grid here, and it's like when there were some little scares later on, but we have a 900 megawatt facility up in Rockdale, and when the prices were surging and we need to heat homes, they just turn it off. They sell it back into the market. Price comes down. They start mining Bitcoin again.
And you have reliable electricity as a resident here.
You get to overbuild your grids. You get these like redundant systems.
What I'm most excited for is like nuclear energy. So like nuclear, I'm a big small modular reactor guy. Like I think we need to go nuclear. I always get made fun of for how I pronounce that.
You say the Bush way.
I say nuclear.
Nuclear.
Their problem has been, number one, government red tape is oppressive. Like it's hard to get out the door. But even if you can get out the door, a lot of places where these SMRs make sense, you have to build transmission lines, and that takes like 18 to 24 months. So you can get a reactor like up and you can get it to the place, but then you have to wait 18 months for that transmission to be built out to actually deliver the electricity to the grid. And now, so that's like 18 months if you're not making any revenue. You're putting big sunk costs, and there's a lot of time where you're not making any money back on that. You set up a mining operation, you put it behind the meter, you mine Bitcoin with it, you build out the transmission lines. Once they're built, you unplug the miners and you rinse and repeat down the road. Like this is an actual viable path with pure economic incentives that can like get us
you just do this until there's no more Bitcoins.
Yeah.
And you're just earning transaction fees after that.
Yeah.
Until your power bill is like $1 a month.
And then it's just transaction fees and money's done. One less thing for humans to worry about.
Yeah.
This is how we make energy free.
That's what it's I'm imagining.
You're saying that's a bit tongue in cheek, but that's like literally like a lot of our problems today exist because all this money stress and.
I mean, this is like Star Trek shit.
Yeah.
Like
if you have free energy, like that is the ultimate goal.
Don't get Bill started on free energy.
Sorry, that shit. Yeah.
Tesla's secrets. Come on, man.
Oh yeah, I forgot you were a big Q guy in the beginning, weren't you?
Here's the thing, dude. All right. He had a lot of slander.
We live on hope, dude.
Yeah, like some shit's going to come out where like, dude, all the evil people that you hate are going to get arrested.
Did you know they're pedophiles?
I want that to be true.
I do too.
Of course.
So and then the early shit before it got whatever happened. The early shit, they were just like, they were giving you some good information and just stuff to look at. Then it got all weird, like stand down psyop. But in the beginning, I was like, what the fuck's going on?
Pizzagate is like,
I agreed with all the
never been debunked.
Those emails are fucking
Pizzagate is fucking never been debunked, and it was fun.
What are you talking about, man? Like, Podesta's like a totally normal guy. He's got statues of freaking Dahmer's pose, like in his walkway. These are normal people that have been slandered. Like, God.
What was the...
By the way, I liked the Q stuff.
So do I, yeah.
The only thing I didn't, that I had never got all the way in because I knew there was no one coming to save us.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was like, that's the only part that was wrong.
There was like, and I like the Q stuff, like I loved reading about it, and I did not think Patriots are in control. Didn't think anybody was going to come save us, but like loved going down it. Similarly, like Wall Street bets. This is like two things were happening around the same time.
I had fun with that one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where it's like everybody was like, oh, like they're going to come save us, or like we're going to fuck the suits. And
AMC,
it's like you're swinging at branches or false prophets when the solution is like right there, like at the same time.
You guys had the ring the whole time.
And it's still here. Yeah. It's like if you want to fix these problems, like
it helps you ignore a lot of the noise, dude.
Yeah.
And like focus and like
Wall Street bets was extremely frustrating. So they're like, we're going to use this fucking stock to take.
I mean,
it to Wall
Bitcoin
Street.
sounds based.
Yeah.
Like
for sure. Yeah.
Based reality stuff.
But it also keeps you away from like just the DDoS on your brain of all this other bullshit. If you can like focus on like, how can I have the biggest impact and what can I do that'll have the biggest impact in like making my life sane and the future sane? It's like, choose your course there. It's like, what else are you going to do?
Yeah. And it is like, I don't know if you believe it. I think it's like some form of divine intervention, like the timing of
Dude,
it.
I was thinking about that today when I was taking a shower.
Yeah.
This is like a gift from God.
Yeah.
Against the most evil thing
It's
ever.
just like a little tap on.
Because like
on
when you were
scale.
saying that it couldn't be the intelligence agencies.
We have an immaculate conception.
Well, whatever. I'm just saying, like, when you were saying that, dude, when you were like, dude, it's only like 20 or 30 people, like, it's not some government thing. I'm like, man, this is crazy that, like, it aligned in the world where this exists.
I know.
Like, we're
at
on
the
a
time that
timeline
it was
when,
launched. Like,
yeah, and it's going to save us from the end. This would have been the end of America.
yeah.
Like, our dollar would be gone and we become those other countries in the fucking dust.
And that's
you
like
know?
one thing that's I'm not sure if you guys are aware of, but like getting Trump reelected, there was a ton of rich Bitcoiners that had
Huge
a
amount.
profound effect on that happening. Like,
Yeah.
Even Musk.
It's becoming politically unviable to
Yeah.
fight against Bitcoin now. It's like, we've gone from Chuck Schumer in 2011 to Elizabeth Warren in 2022 shutting down banks. It's like, man, they've been throwing some stuff at it. What's really good is like, again, I'm not like sticking up for, Washington politicians and stuff, is that like most of them don't have a strong opinion on this yet. And so like it creates like this opportunity.
Yeah.
Before it's been so politicized and everything. Trump's made it a little bit more politicized, but there's Democrats out there that have been in office for like 50 years, like that helped save the internet. Like they're good guys, like the internet could have sucked.
You got to get Fetterman.
Yeah.
You got to get him.
he's taking like that seizure changed the trajectory of his life.
You got to
He's
get
a
Fetterman to be your
completely new person.
spokesman.
It's kind of a beast, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think with like
powerful.
all the shit that has happened, like this, it's made me way more open to Bitcoin because like after Warp Speed, all that shit, I became unaffiliated and just started looking at stuff from like a higher perspective where it's like you can get caught immediately, like with the shit that's happening with the UAPs and stuff, like they want you to get into some fucking trap of arguing, like
just a
on
DDoS.
the side.
Yeah.
Where
It's
you can
like
just be
when
dude,
I was
fuck
saying,
you.
like, you're a hamster, and it's like, look over there, dude. Look at the aliens. The aliens
Aliens are
there.
real.
Keep running on it. Keep running on it. Keep running on it. But it's like, if you could step off of it and be like, why was I on that thing? But the only thing that would make you step off of it is the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Because, like, you're just hunting down dollars all day. And, like, you have to run fast on the wheel. You never get vacation. I mean, dude, it's pretty normal that people my age are not going to retire. They know that. So it's like you're going to be on that hamster wheel for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And for what? Every day you get more dollars, they're going to be worth less if they feel like it.
I remember-
And do they ever go the other way?
No, they
Like, do
can't.
dollars ever go the other way?
No, it's a Ponzi
Yeah.
scheme. They have to print more.
I remember seeing like commercials for like, retirement, IRA accounts and stuff like that. And where it was like, what's your number? And like no number was over like $140,000. They're like, you can retire. Yeah.
Right.
This is like 25 years ago. And it was
Now
like,
you need like $1 million.
oh yeah, minimum. Yeah. Even then it's like you're sweating it because like,
if you don't get cancer,
or if you don't die, it's like, like if you don't die for 25 years, you're going to need more than $1 million. Like, it's nuts.
I'm in.
All right.
I'll buy some Bitcoin.
Did we get you?
Yeah, I mean, I there wasn't much persuasion, but like, it would be too dumb not to at least put some money into it to make something that sounds good stronger. Like
That's what Hal Finney said at the
it
very
sucks
beginning.
being in the bank. Like it's not doing fuck all for me in the bank. And
Losing
I'm just
value,
like,
intentionally losing value.
Yeah.
Dude, you're getting cuffed.
Yeah,
I know,
I mean,
seriously.
if you guys say something bad on war mode too, like the bank can be like, oh,
Yeah.
I mean, it happens that we had somebody email me today running a mining operation. Chase just shut down their bank account because they don't like that they're involved with Bitcoin mining.
Happens all the time.
Yeah.
That sucks.
I didn't know this was such a big, like, bad thing.
Oh yeah. Dude, it scares the shit
You guys
out
are
of
like
people.
rebels.
I mean, we're pretty fucking cool.
Autism,
Like,
autism is probably the word. Yeah. No, and that's like, I hope we don't come off as crazy. But just like, again, like I said earlier, we're in the shit, like, and we take a lot of things for granted in terms of like assuming what other people understand about all this. And
No, everyone's
think-
pretty much just confused out there.
Yeah.
And
It
you're,
is.
and
It's
you're told
confusing.
Bitcoin's a scam.
yeah.
Just like the other coins, the altcoins, the shit coins.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that they do not do Bitcoin any services because they are legitimate scams that blow up in people's faces and they lose a lot of money. And yes, Bitcoin price has gone up and down, but
Which is an attack on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's like one of those attacks we just have to get through. And we've gotten through 99.9% of them. I mean, there's thousands of these things and like Bitcoin just swats them away, but there's a few that have hung around and like, we'll take care of them too, or we'll take care of them. The market will take care of them.
Right.
It's not that hard.
yeah.
Speaking of crazy, I mean, we got the war mode guys here. I invented
Oh yeah, let's talk about it.
conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
I want to run it by
Oh,
you
yeah,
guys
yeah.
because I feel like y'all are like the connoisseurs here.
Not
Like,
really,
tell
but-
me if like this is a good one. I wanna-
We enjoy them.
Will told me this. What was it, like 1 a.m.? We were coming back from a Houston meetup.
Yeah,
and
it's
you
like
told this
2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But my brother and I invented this, and I want to see like if we like it, we can start spreading it together. All right. So it just starts with the Dulles brothers,
It's fucking,
like most
bread
conspiracies,
and
but it
butter.
also includes fluoride. However, in my conspiracy, fluoride has the intended consequence that the government tells us it does. It just makes your teeth better.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. So the idea is that, the Guatemala coup is 1954, right? Both Dulles brothers involved, one of them with United Fruit Company, other one running the CIA. They go to Guatemala, they take it over, which means that United Fruit Company gets to maintain their lands. They're growing bananas and tropical fruits. They're importing them into the United States. But after the coup, they're going to pump a lot more fruit and sugar into the American diet right after that, right? And so the mandatory fluoridation of water also starts picking up steam right there in the mid 50s, right? So the idea is that in order to protect the United Fruit Company, the Dulles brothers, is that they knew they were going to rot everyone's teeth out with all this fruit they're going to be importing into the United States. They needed like a credible way for people not to notice that our diets changed, over a course of a couple of years,
Yeah.
and our teeth start falling out. So they start fluoridating all the water to get that effect, right? Is it basically fluoridation is actually for covering up.
That's like high level shit, but I'm thinking it's not. I'm thinking it's not United Fruit, but it's the Hawaiian sugar cane and the
Yeah.
Cuban sugar cane or whatever island we had, Dominican Republic or whatever.
All of them, yeah.
Damn, dude, if that lines up, that might be real.
It's right. It's right around the right time. Fluoridation hits Michigan 1945, but no one else really does it, right? It's just like one town, right? And then there's a couple other municipalities that do it.
Because they would have had to have like a media push to like show pictures of the teeth and be
Yes.
like, look,
They did.
And
That's what
like,
they did in the mid 50s.
Yeah.
I think it's because they're bringing all the fucking sugar into the American diet.
yeah, bro.
You made this up.
But hey, man, I
Just
mean,
putting dots together, yeah.
Just a hunch. Okay, so this is just a hunch. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a good one, man.
I like that.
Pretty good. All right,
That's pretty good. I'm gonna check this out.
got this out in the world now.
Yeah.
I made it up. I have no idea if it's true. I know that the dates line up, kind of, but yeah.
There's a chance.
I
But
mean, they
in your
changed-
theory, the fluoride doesn't do anything bad.
In this theory, you just give into big fluoride and you say it does the good stuff,
Maybe they didn't know it was going to lower IQ.
Yeah, like,
And,
I mean, this makes complete sense.
right?
Yeah,
They could have definitely released
Which
it
is
not
what
knowing
makes
what
it
it
they
good
wouldn't
one.
have known about IQ.
No.
Like
you
that.
gotta test
The
it.
Romans had lead pipes.
Yeah,
You know,
that
they
would have
didn't
been
know.
way down the road.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
a good
thinking
one,
the-
bro.
Getting rid of oil paint or the lead-based paint
Yeah.
was to fuck with you with radio waves. Because in a lead paint room, radio
You can't
waves
get
and
Wi-Fi.
EMF
Yeah.
can't come in. So they sit there and say it's illegal and your kids are going to eat fucking paint chips.
Because they're like 20 years ahead in the tech.
Yeah.
You know,
They know what's
ha-
coming.
They had all this shit. They know they could give you cancer and all that stuff. And like, dude, lead paint's illegal. It has to be water-based. And that people pay for EMF blocking paint.
Yeah.
So like they pay good money for that shit. I think RFK Jr. has and stuff.
Yeah, because what they can do with Wi-Fi, they can like just map your house, like
Oh, yeah.
from a truck outside.
it's
They
like
can
a
see
bat,
everything.
bat sonar.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
I don't fuck with it. I read. You ever read it's what's called
Electric Universe.
Electric Universe is a good book about EMFs and stuff.
Yeah.
Like there was all these farmers and stuff out in like the country had no radio. They were just living clean. They would come into cities, all this stuff. They introduce it in the cities. All the kids are fine because they're always kind of getting some EMFs. They introduce radio lines in the country. All those dudes start getting heart problems.
They used to call it
keeling
Linesman's
over.
disease.
Happened to the Philadelphia Zoo too. Philadelphia Zoo had no problems. They got all the radio lines after the war around the zoo. All the animals started fucking getting heart problems and getting fucked up.
Allegedly, we're being like tortured and like we're sick from electricity, and we don't even know how good we should feel.
I want to
Just throwing that out there.
I mean, how long do you have to be not exposed to like feel?
No idea.
We have
or is
no
it, Or is
idea.
it just you're screwed?
This is just a cool book.
How are you gonna escape it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like
You're
I go
surrounded
out to
by radio
Wyoming a lot.
waves.
There's not a lot out there.
Yeah. You
I
bring
mean,
your phone?
Like, how long would I have to bug out?
I
Like,
have no idea. I think it's just like this is
can you detox?
it's a lot of it just seems like a little like a nice nudge to at least like kind of keep people medicated. Like no one's going to take, not everyone's going to take your meds. So you get like a little bit of EMF, like a little bit of weird shit going on where you're kind of just subservient.
This is all the 5G stuff as well, right?
Yes, 5G.
And like Havana syndrome, like that is just them like completely baking you intentionally. Like
That's a legit thing.
Yeah, no,
they tried to psy out people that it wasn't.
Yeah.
No, it's real, but like
it's
you just
concentrated.
Think it's concentrated, and like maybe this is just like low dose and doesn't have as profound of effect as micro targeting with Havana syndrome.
You can feel like the low dose stuff. Like you read your phone at night, you can't go to bed. Like like the
I tried to video
light.
edit something, and I think it took years off my life.
Yeah, yeah.
The blue light shit fucks me up. He gets crushed by it trying to go to sleep and just getting destroyed by blue light.
I'm a gremlin at night, dude.
It keeps you up for so long.
I mean, I can't help I'm on Twitter until 1 a.m.
That's you guys talked to Jack Cruz, dude?
No, I've DM'd him a couple
He's
times.
a serious fucking Bitcoiner, that guy.
Yeah.
I think he's down in El Salvador.
He's down in El Salvador.
Yeah.
That dude pumps me up. He's the same way. It is weird that like everyone just kind of hates on it, but like then they're like, oh no, I'm a patriot. Like I'm a good American. I'm going to put money in my 401k. It's like, dude, just get away from those fuckers.
You know, my wife wrote a book called Bitcoin and the American Dream. And it's like trying to just like refocus people. It's like, no, you're forgetting the American dream is not putting all your money in a 401k.
Yeah.
So this is
that's
like
been
made up in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So that's something I could read where it's like, this will be like the new American dream story for myself.
Yeah,
where
it's made to like appeal. It's kind of made to appeal to politicians. They wrote this like to hand out in Washington and just be like, guys, like don't fight against this. This is good
like
for
a
America.
pamphlet or like a heavy book.
It's a small
up there
book. It's right
somewhere.
up there somewhere.
Oh, nice.
I'll give you one before we leave.
No,
But
it's
like
essentially like Bitcoin, sound money, property rights. Like
Property rights is a big one for me.
they can't take it. Like you own it.
Yeah, they hit you with the real estate taxes and all that shit. And it's like
Bitcoin's one of the few things in my life that I actually fucking own. Like I have a house. I have a house with no mortgage on it. I do not
too.
own it.
Yeah, I don't.
Like I'm
same
paying
thing.
thousands of dollars, just to rent the house that I presumably own.
Yeah.
It's insane. It's like
not
Bitcoin
fair.
you can just own.
Is there anywhere without property tax?
Not in the United States.
It's cool if it makes sense, but they've raised property taxes to the point where it's a mortgage payment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah. I mean, funny enough, California has the like lowest, but their state taxes are so high. But it's like even Texas has like middle of the road, but they're kind of a little bit high here. It's the premise of it is like you don't actually own anything.
Yeah, you're a slave. Dude.
You're a
Indentured
slave. And like I can't think of anything I'm allowed to just own.
Yeah, Joe sent me something today.
What was the question Kevin had?
He sent me this thing. It was like, I have a really hard time taking anyone seriously who talks about personal or spiritual empowerment, but then scoffs at the idea of Bitcoin. You can't change the world if you're using slave credits to do that. You know
I
what I
love
mean?
this guy.
It's like fucking slave credits kill me with all that, like all the money I try to make.
I mean, it sounds brazen, but like that's like telling like stories and narrative. Like that's how like that's one thing we've talked about a lot.
Have fun with your slave.
And we're pretty
credits.
good. Like it's like framing things, like own the frame, like and literally like you are operating your life on slave credits. Like you are a slave to this debt system.
That's probably another thing of like why people get pissed is it's a huge loss of frame. When you're like, dude, those are slave credits.
When you're like, oh shit, I'm a fucking slave. I didn't know I was a slave.
Yeah, dude.
You know, like imagine finding out you're a slave. It's like,
get to pay
Well,
$1,000
you
a
think
month.
you're rich. You're looking at like the dude you're above on the ladder, and you're like, look at him. He's paying houses, and it's like, dude, you're a slave too. What kind of money do you have?
oh, and he's worse off than you are. If
Yeah.
you're paying houses and he's living in this brand new house, right? He's paying the property taxes. He's chasing that job. His wife's going to divorce him and to have his
The wives,
money.
they
and
get
then-
work done.
Yeah.
That's expensive.
And I mean, going back to the West African glass beads, like again, what's happening here to our money system is not much different, and that led to like the West African slave trade. Yes, we're not putting people on ships.
Oh, Jesus Christ, this
and
is getting
shifting-
dark.
Like
Yeah.
shipping them off to do slave labor, but like you are that hamster is
They're putting them on
essentially
OnlyFans, brother.
like a new form of slavery.
You
Getting
could
paid
just,
millions.
you could, I mean, you could just like kind of guide. You could do social engineering and guide people. You could normalize going to wherever the work is in the world, and like just world slavery
Yeah.
under one kind of like. If everyone has, you're telling me everyone has dollars. The Europeans are printing their own dollars. Like
Yep.
this is scary stuff to me. I don't know. Like regular people. I mean, people probably do know this, and I'm dumb, but.
No, I mean,
Like-
Marty's the one that taught me about that.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't know any of this. Dude, I was working on computers and stuff,
Yeah.
like building software. And like Marty and Parker and Saifuddin and these guys, like I didn't know anything. I was an economics major. I knew nothing about money. It was like embarrassing.
That's crazy.
I paid all that money for college and I knew nothing.
Such a waste, dude.
Yeah.
It's such a psyop.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually like, I don't want to get too angry. I don't want to go like full AJ, but like when you think about it, like
Go, brother.
The opportunity cost of like
Unhinged.
they forced us down this fucking timeline. Like get good grades in high school, go into debt to go to college, you'll get a good job.
Yeah,
nothing's
good slave,
materialized.
good slave.
Like what the fuck would we have built if we weren't fed that lie? We had good money. Like how much time, human capacity,
Yeah, what have I
intellectual
done
capacity
the last 20 years
has
to
been
just work on
wasted
Bitcoin?
for like our lives. And it pisses
Oh,
me
yeah.
like
Well, my life's gone, bro.
like fucking 9/11, 08, Snowden, WikiLeaks,
October 7th.
October 7th.
October 7th.
We have to put a stop to this. This is
Like,
crazy.
It's all like one after another is getting kicked in the dick for our generation specifically. And I was radicalized in 08. And when I found Bitcoin, I was like, this is how we fix it. And that's why I've essentially dedicated my life to it.
I feel like I don't know what the line was exactly, but it's like we worked on Bitcoin so our kids don't have to work on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Yo, that's what's up. That's a good idea.
You met our
dude,
kids.
like,
It's
if you think about it,
they don't have to think about this anymore.
If nobody's mining it, it would take a lot longer.
Yeah.
You know, like put the work in, mine it, get it all mined up.
Well, and now, my kids can go paint houses and like not,
And it's not
lose their money.
embarrassing, you know?
Well, it's
and
not. It's like you earn money, you keep it. Like, that's it.
just kills me because like the richer dude that has slave credits is like not letting me use his bathroom because I'm poorer than him, but I'm working for him.
People actually deny bathroom access to them.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You give off
Yeah.
that vibe? You give off no bathroom vibes?
These people are sick, dude.
Or do we need to start like a hashtag Starbucks thing here or something?
Just saying.
Like,
Yeah,
you get treated. Definitely get treated different if you're poor.
Well, and that's like
I went to Talladega
Yeah.
and we like dressed the part. It was like mullets, mustaches. It was like a social experiment. Like I dressed down. I did the Talladega thing. I know I was co-opting their culture a lot. I've never been treated worse in my life in an airport.
And you're tall.
Than just looking like someone who was poor.
Yeah.
It's a bell curve though, because like poors don't give a fuck. People who have a fuck ton of debt really care what they look like
yeah.
and stuff. Rich people don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
Real rich dudes are like, whatever, man.
Yeah.
Sure.
You shit in my bed for all I care.
well, that's like the mid curve people. They're going to be in for a big problem because like it's easy money, particularly like in tech and finance and consulting, has created like this middle management that we're describing earlier. Like, they don't provide any fucking value. They're just basically like laptop warriors who
Overdraft
are
fees.
able to have a job because the fucking company has enough money. And that's the other thing, the perverse thing in startups and public companies is like headcount is a metric that for many years is like, if your head count is growing, that means you're a good business.
That means customers?
No, people
how
that
many
work for you,
people have you employed?
Employees? Okay.
Yeah.
And so people have like hired about like, yeah, we have 30,000 people, and that's viewed as like
must be
a
a good
good
company.
KPI to hit.
Yeah, but all these like big startups have like 25 people. Like,
They don't make money either. Like I'm pretty sure Uber is only
they don't.
profitable. Like they may not. I think they
Who's
have
doing
1/4
it?
profit.
who gives them all the money then?
VCs and
Not a public, but yeah.
yeah, are they?
Yeah.
Uber's public. That's right. It's like no VCs will like front companies money for a long time.
Okay.
They're unprofitable, and they get huge amount of equity, and then hopefully that company turns a profit sometime.
Gotcha.
Which is actually kind of leads to the shitcoin thing of like how that works. Is like the shitcoins really took off because of VCs. Is that what VCs found is like most of their investments that they do are not liquid for like 10 years. It's like you invest in a startup, it's like they might not be turning a profit, going public, getting bought by another company for like 10 years. That's like kind of their time horizon. And so they give money and it's just gone for a long time.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they found these tech companies that were creating these tokens, and those tokens would have immediate liquidity.
Yeah.
And so they found this other vehicle where they're like, we can pump these companies up, right? Where we're insiders. Like the company won't get on the off the ground without us, but we invest, and within like 6 months, we're able to dump these tokens on the public.
retail.
So
If
you
we
get paid
mix that
twice.
into our other fund where everything's a liquid,
And this is like planned.
oh
Yeah,
100%.
A16Z, like Mark Andreessen, like he was on Rogan, like talking about Operation Choke.0.
Talking like
this is good.
I like Andreessen.
fucking motor mouth.
I like him too, but like Coinbase is essentially an A16Z portfolio consolidation company for
to just dump crap on retail investors.
Yeah.
And confuse them.
yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, I never have owned a stock in my life. for moral reasons, I won't do the stock market. I think that's all blood money, and it's just like you don't own any of that at any point in time. If they roll out, all those dudes are good. You're fucked.
The only time I ever owned
it
stocks
seems
was
insane to me to do that.
Yeah. Well, I also don't know anything about the market.
Yes.
Like, I have no skills. I don't know how to value a company. I don't know if a company is overpriced or underpriced. Why do I have to invest my money in a company that I don't understand?
How are you going to figure that out?
Like I had like a company 401k, and so it just like went in. But like I've never spent time buying stocks or anything like that. It's like it's a fool's game. It's like, you know, I'm buying. Someone's selling me that stock. They probably know a lot more than I do.
Yeah.
So it's like, why am I buying it from?
Yeah,
them?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that good?
I think that's good. What do you guys think? Do you guys have any more?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Just try
Is
to
this
buy
helpful?
some Bitcoin. I think so.
Dude, I mean, for us, yeah.
That's fun.
I'm
kidding
pumped
me?
we did this.
All the people have to do is leave the ego at the door, dude. No one's saying you're an idiot. No one's saying anything. It's just like,
Well, I
dude,
mean,
get on the train.
I can't wait for the comments.
Yeah, they'll call us idiots.
I am gonna. love it,
What should
though.
we front run? You're probably gonna have some BSV retards in your comments.
Oh,
The what?
E-cashers.
Altcoin, shitcoin guys. It's like, oh no,
yeah.
it's actually Bitcoin was co-opted in 2016 by like
Roger Ver has been
Roger Ver and
Yeah.
those types of guys.
That dude, so they were playing that dude at InfoWars.
Oh yeah, well he's
was
been
on
on
Tucker.
InfoWars before.
Yeah.
He was on Tucker recently, but like his appearances on InfoWars are fucking hilarious because Jones is sitting there and he gets these calls in. They're like, Roger's a retard. What are you doing? And Jones is like, I mean, you're saying this, and I've heard you, and this guy. I'm just staying out of it, boys.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't want any part of this.
We rolled in and they were playing. That was what they were playing when we were waiting
Right
to
when
get
we walked
on.
in.
No, he's got some buddies, and like honestly, it's like Roger has some compelling things, you know,
Yeah.
about his story and everything. But it's like he fucked this one up real bad, and he fucked a lot of people over.
And he's like digging his heels in.
Yeah,
That Nick Sorza guy or whatever.
Zabo?
Zabo.
Zabo.
Nick Zabo. Are we still doing it?
I don't know.
no.
Stop it.
Whatever. Can we stop?
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's end it. We're done.
That
Peace and
Nick
love.
Zabo guy. He was